Hello, Charles.
Hello there, Jason. How are you?
I'm very well. It's time for Sunday with you.
And you.
And me, yes. But we've got some dirty, rotten scoundrels joining us today, Charles. You know, a lot of people, including me, were confused as to whether or not we had used this theme before, but I don't think so. I was unable to find it in the archives.
Yeah, it's really amusing to me. If you had asked me 3 years ago, would I ever participate in 182 two-hour documentaries, podcasts, whatever you want to call them, I was like, you got a serious hemp smoking problem there. I mean, that's never going to happen. But like you, I mean, as you age, you have more difficulty remembering stuff because there's so many more facets to your life.
Remembering what?
I don't know. What are we talking about?
You're suffering from CRS, Charles.
Exactly. But it is quite true that we have done quite a few of these, and so it's easy to imagine. I actually thought we had done this before, but
I think we've spoken about it a number of times because it's sort of such an obvious title to want to use. But I have to say, I am quite pleased with the result. It's
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. It's always a kind of hit or miss thing, but really more so than the Photoshop skill, it's finding the right images of these scoundrels to marry up to the movie posters of the classics that we use. I really enjoyed this film. Both the leads are extremely funny, and
there's Steve Martin and Michael Caine.
Yeah.
But you know, it's actually though a sober point that we like to make about this, in that a fish does rot from the head, and if we think about it, and we're not just only going after Bill Clinton and Barack Obama in this exercise, we're going after any corruption involving major figures, especially including my distant relatives, the Bush family, and it's just when you have the largest country, largest economic force in the world, largest military in the world, run in quotes by people who are prepared to not only break the law from time to time, but to subvert the legal system for the benefit, their personal and political benefits, to then in addition go after their perceived and maybe real enemies. You've got mega corruption on your hand, and as people are starting to, I think, more stridently say on television and the main channels, you cannot let these examples rest unpunished, because you're allowing diabolical precedents to be set for next year and next decade and next century. And as sure as we're sitting here today, there is somebody born every day who is fundamentally evil. And it's just the nature of the human race. I mean, we have good people and bad people, and some people are just stone cold evil. And I'm not talking about only Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And so here we have this period, 1988 to the present.
Why do you say 1988 to the present? I think it goes back to 1963 and even probably before, but this round of George H.W. Bush fueled craziness?
Well, no, I think the reason I start with 1988 is, and certainly it probably went back more than that. 1988 forward is the period where America really projected itself onto the global stage, where it became possible in 1988, when the Berlin Wall came down, it became possible, and not only possible, realistic, to think about setting up global services firms, investment firms, banks that really did business everywhere.
Behind the Iron Curtain.
Behind the Iron Curtain. I mean, back when I initially graduated from business school in 1980, in June of 1980, if you wanted to fly to Hong Kong or whatever, you could do it, but it just took a long time because you weren't allowed to fly over Russia. You had to fly. I mean, these big changes.
Really a different world.
Yeah, it's a very different world before you start thinking about the technology. Just simple math. I mean, a lot of companies prior to 1988, American companies, they had business internationally, but the core market was the United States of America. And what was going on outside the world didn't matter, which means that the presidency and the Department of Justice and the IRS, they're important for the U.S. market, but they become far more important in an unregulated globalist world, where we're the largest market, we're the biggest military. Suddenly, every crook in the world has an interest in paying off the U.S. Justice Department, the IRS, the SEC, the presidents, the senators, et cetera. So these politicians become a lot more, quotes, marketable.
Well, the other thing you've caused me to realize, Charles, in that explanation, which, thank you, it's a good explanation, this also ties directly to this whole Russia-gate, Ukraine-gate, Bill Browder, looting the failed Soviet Union. That's what happened in 1988. So I fully appreciate what you're talking about now.
Yeah, I mean, silly me, and we'll talk about, just without getting into too much detail, your business here. I mean, good, lasting franchise businesses are actually built customer by customer. And what you learn, or what I've learned in my business career, is that the best way to get new business is to focus on your existing customers and really make sure that you're pleasing them and giving them, because by word of mouth, those customers are going to go and say, yeah, you should go in here, you should go there. And that's the way that, the great franchises I've been around and invested in and been fortunate enough to have an interest in from time to time. Those things are, I mean, it's hard work.
Yeah.
To see these bounders, I mean, in both cases, Barack Obama did not have a coffee bean to his name when he was a Illinois state senator or whatever. Next thing you know, Michelle gets a plush job denying people health insurance in the Chicago. I mean, that was her role. She was hired by a hospital system to make sure that people, were flushed out of the system and didn't get health insurance so they could make the thing as profitable as possible. And then Valerie Jarrett, the key consigliere, was a slumlord.
Wow.
I mean, you got those people, and then you got Bill and Hillary Clinton arrive literally on a turnip truck.
What are you talking about?
From little, I mean, they came into Washington, D.C. I'm still pissed at them for the way they came in Washington, D.C. I had a...
actual turnip truck?
No, but being figurative. But I actually had when I was in banking, I had a very high-level meeting scheduled involving the CEO of British Airways and the CEO of a large Japanese airline to meet in the Hay Adams Hotel in 1992, in December of 1992, and it was all set up, and these guys were flying all over the place, and I get a call from the Hey Adam, we can't do it.
Hey Adam.
It's a great hotel, actually. and they said, I'm sorry, Mr. Ortelli, I had I later used that suite for actually my brother's bachelor party. But there used to be the presidential suite on the top of the Hay Adams Hotel looks out over Washington, D.C., and it's a beautiful apartment, actually. And I had that all set up, and no, the Clintons are coming, and they need it. They need it because they can't use the other house. They need to use this. And Jesus, you're pissing me off from the get-go. You pissed me off on election day. But the two of them, they came in to Washington, D.C., and I don't think actually that either one of them is particularly, off the charts intelligent, only because I grew up.
You mean Bill and Hillary or
Barack or Bill or Hillary or Michelle? I mean, I say that just because I was raised in a household where my parents were off the charts intelligent, so I have a little familiarity with it. I don't think they're stupid people, but they certainly should have known better that they were walking into chairs that so far in the course of human history, only 45 people have been president of the United States, and here are two of them, and they have all the resources that are available to any leader of any country and more, and they should have known the risks they were taking, and the scandals, the lines they were going into, the bad precedents they were setting, and instead of really taking this job seriously, they allowed, let's say, they allowed people around them to say, you guys are global brands. We got to milk your brand once you leave. We got books, we got movie deals, we got this deal and that deal. That's what they did. They were public servants in name only, and they got what they either understood and were just fine with it, or didn't understood because it happened so quick to them. They got involved with some really bad people. Rajat Gupta at McKinsey, the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, countless, Ortel's First Law, any name connected to the Clintons and the Obamas as a major financial figure is probably crooked. And you can, we've borne that out in the previous 181 broadcasts. So these people actually deserve to be marked and branded as scoundrels and punished for their. This is not a case where we should say, "Oh, they're former presidents." Tom Fitton told a friend of mine, Charles doesn't seem to understand that, in Washington D.C., former presidents are given deference and
to
bullshit.
Do crimes?
Yeah, the bullshit they're given deference. Ulysses Grant spent the bulk of his post-presidency atoning for his sins, having gotten involved with a fraudster. And he didn't get put in prison, but neither of these people won the Civil War, where Ulysses Grant did.
I think the other important thing to keep in mind, Charles, is that we can't just say, oh, well, this person's the president or running for the presidency, so we have to give them a pass, because all that does is make the most sophisticated criminals around the world aware that all you need to do is get somebody into that office of presidency, and then boom, you're home free. So perhaps that's what these two represent, is the latest iteration of a group of people who realize that and have spent every dollar and every ounce of strength working on getting some crooked, compromised, corrupt criminal in there. David Hawkins spends a lot of time talking about how it's a well-established tactic of the espionage world to entrap people with these, child exploitation programs along the lines of Epstein. And David speaks about characters historically who have been linked to this, and particularly in the British government.
Of course. So, absolutely. It was going on for, it's a national sport in Britain,
really
in the public
bad
school system. But I think, this case has really gotten to a point now where I believe the public, the American public, really the international public, but in particular the American public, is now so fed up. And I think we're beginning to see an alignment that we saw in 2016, where you, a Bernie supporter, and me, not a Bernie supporter, could find common cause, both on issues of national security and international stuff and corruption. And people, we're better off in 2019 than we were in 2016. But still, to see these corpulent politicians, parading around the world, and that there's a new person on Fox from Barack Obama's person who was giving Mulvaney and people a hard time about the Doral decision and bragging that she was involved with she did this G7 and that G7 and
Hillary.
That wasn't Hillary. It was like an Obama aide, just kind of letting we peons know how little we knew about how G7. I don't give a shit about G7 conferences. I think they should take the G7 and flush it right down the tidy bowl. I mean, we don't need a G7 or a G8 and a G20 and a UN and a World Bank and we just don't need any of that stuff. If it's just going to be, an excuse in this world where we're supposed to be fighting climate change,
to fly people
to fly boatloads, plane loads of people around the world to remote locations and fancy parties. To talk about nothing and get nothing accomplished, and then say what a great job it was.
Well, I tell you, Charles, even in my own industry, I remember I got to a point where there was just invitation after invitation after invitation to these different things around the world, around the country, where you literally could spend every week going to another one of these things. And there's a benefit to it, but at a certain point, it just becomes whoever is making these conferences, that's their business, and they want as much business as they can get.
Right. I have one of my brother's friends has created a very large business, I won't even say in what country, for doing just that. For companies will hire this company
to make a conference,
to set up a conference, to give out an award. And so people all over the world, they get these. And actually, around here, I nearly went and bought one. There's where is it? It's in between 5th and Madison. I want to say in the 20s, might be the 30s. There is a trophy store. Of course, there's everything here, man. But there's
I like the ninja equipment store.
All kinds of stores. But where you could go in.
Nunchucks.
Nunchucks. But whatever size trophy you want. I mean, get somebody a gigantic statuette for the best mayonnaise eater with bacon. I mean, it's like
we should do that, Charles. We should nominate the best mayonnaise eater. One other thing I wanted to bring to your attention before we get into the presentation, Charles, there has still, to my knowledge, been no coverage whatsoever of the incarceration of the extremely questionable Singh brothers. Virtually no coverage in the U.S. news cycle at all. You and I did a show on Monday, a special Monday with Charles. It's gotten just over 13,000 views so far, but people seem to have really liked it. It got almost 1,000 thumbs up, which is very good. Anybody who hasn't seen that yet should go back into the Crowdsource the Truth Sunday with Charles playlist, which I have updated to include this special Monday with Charles episode. I also want to remind people, for the standard episodes that normally include Charles's signature presentation, for people who want to access that, you may want to click on the description to reveal this little download link, and then you just click on that and you can download the presentation and either follow along or print it out and mark it up or do any number of things with it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to go back. I to date have never printed all of these presentations out, and I'm gonna have to go back and do that.
It'll be a lot of paper.
It's a lot of paper, yeah. I have to get another apartment for it, but
today is our 182nd episode, Charles.
That's fantastic, Jason.
Yeah.
What are we going to do for the 200th? That'll be in next year, I guess.
Just a couple of weeks, right? Perhaps we should have a big party and give away a mayonnaise eating trophy. Mayonnaise eating contest.
Oh no, I don't want to watch that.
How much mayonnaise could somebody eat?
Ooh,
I don't think I
way
want to
too
know.
much. Way too much. But actually, it may seem like we're doing this in a very haphazard fashion, but we're not. It's a very, the way I look at it, it's a formulaic approach that I remember sitting down, as I did, with the top people at Fox, and trying to explain to them, the production people, that the editors of the top, the scale of this scandal. And they were just scratching their heads saying, well, I don't know, how are we going to do this? I mean, it's because they were probably thinking this is going to take hours and hours and hours of their airtime, which they're not going to give to one scandal. And when I saw that reaction, I totally agree with them, because the cable format and certainly the network format,
people just would never pay attention.
It's designed so that you don't follow it, right? I mean, if you're constantly being interrupted, and now as the population ages, I'm more and more sensitive to the ads. I mean, it used to be back in the fun days, it was Seagram Scotch and beer and condoms and whatever. And
Can't advertise anything good anymore.
And now it's
Scotch and condoms. Let me see more of that.
It's like this pill. Please take it.
Yeah,
for
now
this.
It's Viagra.
No,
you don't even need
but
the
I love
condoms.
this one. Dupuytren's contraction. They have a former.
What is that?
It's your hand goes. They have this former quarterback. I think it's John Elway, talking about how he had it, and you look it up, and it's a serious thing, but very few people have it, and yeah, you can get cured by it, but then when they talk about the pill, they of course say, they have nice images.
Your hair's going to fall out,
your head's going to fall off, you're going to infect
sexual side effects.
Infect the entire population.
Maybe just stick with the hand grip.
And it's just pill after pill like that, or that, and I'm watching this on Fox. I'm watching this to the extent I really, I don't know why I do it. It's like, you've burned your hand how many times on the stove, but I'll flip through the channels and I'll say MSNBC, and I'll land on it. There's some complete idiot on that show. And then I have to watch it. I'm just mesmerized by how stupid they are.
Well, you've inadvertently raised a point that I wasn't going to bring up, but I'd like to for just a second, because someone sent a comment. I have done an expose last night of a person who I have evidence has lied to me and the Crowdsource the Truth audience, and someone made a comment on that video questioning me, saying that I must be a Mossad agent, because why else would Charles have joined a relatively unknown YouTube channel 2 years ago unless I'm Mossad?
Yeah.
What is your answer, Charles, for why you chose to do this show with Crowdsource the Truth?
Well, first of all, I mean, it was maybe it wasn't chance. I mean, maybe George Webb and whoever was working with George Webb, you know, targeted me.
Well, Patricia Negron had contacted you, and they both suggested to me that we should have you on the show.
But in addition to that, I had gotten in touch. I reached out to George myself before that. So it was, you know, and I nearly even, there was a lot of fussing around with the first interview. You were going to England,
Right.
you weren't going to do
Right.
it, you weren't. And I, generally speaking, when that happens to me, I just say,
Forget
F
it.
that. I nearly did that.
Wow.
But I went ahead and I said,
Think of how the world would be different if you did.
yeah, that's true. But so, and then we did a bunch of shows, and I enjoyed the experience. And you suggested, you know, why don't we do this on a more regular basis?
Well, and that suggestion I made after I parted ways with George,
Right.
because as I've said from the beginning, when I created this show, I realized that I didn't have that much experience in journalism. I wasn't a military whistleblower or some kind of intelligence expert or something, so I had a limited amount of stuff that I could talk about aside from how to make 3D movies. So I made the decision that I would interview interesting people and just ask them questions. And you were one of those people.
No, you, the person who was scheduled that day, couldn't make it, so you interviewed
No,
me.
not at all, not at all. But I would also say that it's pretty probable that one of the factors in your choosing to do this was the simple fact of how many other YouTube channels are walking distance from your apartment where you could do this. And
Well, it was more the professionalism, and it was more just the the chemistry, and also it's funny. This particular brother is back in town right now, and it turns out the last time he was here was 3 years ago, and before that, maybe 2 years before that. But I remember when I embarked on this whole thing of exposing fraud in 2007. That's now 12, 13 years ago, depending on how you look at it. At a certain point, this brother said, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why don't you do something else?"
My brother said the same thing to me.
And I said, "Look, I think things are changing. The traditional media approach is changing. I am not an expert. I told this brother, as you know, I'm not an expert at anything having to do with entertainment, but I think I know a little bit about business. And in New York City." There's a lot. Now we have a massive homelessness problem, but on the plus side, it is still the capital of finance. It is one of the capitals of entertainment. It's the capital of fashion, etc. And I just told this brother, I said, "Listen, I'm going to run into somebody, probably a Hollywood veteran, who is going to want to help me tell this story." And I still today have a reasonable memory, I think. And so and so you came along, and I thought, well, let's try it. Let's see if it works. And so far, it seems to have worked. And this approach we're taking is, we had some constructive comments from our good friend in Norway that maybe we should tell people what we're going to do in each show up front, and we do that with a thumbnail. But today, we're going to do a few things. We've got new facets of this scandal to really, as Emerald, the famed TV cook, would say, to kick it up a notch.
Yeah.
Bam!
Bam! Exactly.
We're going to kick it up a notch on what we've already told you about this attempted rigging of elections with some new evidence and all that. But we're going to close the show out with, I don't know how much time we'll have with her because it's late at night in Sweden, but we're going to have the great Dr. Bilyana Martinovski, who's got a sad tale to tell about how she was just recently arrested. We want that tale and now released, but brought up on who knows what charges, just simply for being an advocate, a real Me Too advocate, somebody, for people who were raped.
Yeah.
There's no good way to rape anybody, and notwithstanding who was one of those presidential candidates was saying something about, or maybe it was a Me Too accuser was saying something about how she fantasized about rape or whatever.
What?
Yeah, there was a recent. I'll remember it in a bit, but this
was
is
that Beto O'Rourke?
No. Beto. No, this is somebody who is a principled human being who was savagely attacked, went to the police, and the police basically decided, well, why don't we attack you? Not physically, but we're going to now assault you because we don't want you going around the world, saying that there's serious problems in Sweden. We just want you to shut up and take it like a woman.
Well, there was something...
And she's not going to do that, and nor should she.
No, and there was something published in that Swedish newspaper or magazine or a Sapo or something like that, which was like the only reporting I had heard before we got to speak to Bilyana, But I remember from shows that we've done, Sappho is like the Washington Post. They hate her. They're publishing all kinds of fake stories and saying that she's a Nazi because she's just trying to raise awareness about the gang rape problem in Sweden.
It's outrageous. It's totally outrageous. Particularly, I come at it from the perspective of first having been to Sweden in the 1980s and going there a lot, all over the place. I mean, it used to be back then, it was a fun place to go. It's certainly beautiful, and the people were, they were very adaptable back then. They would tell me, you know, our market is small and we have to carry our businesses around the world, which means we've got to learn about different cultures and be open to different ideas. Since then, probably in the early O's, it's become increasingly less tolerant, and to the point now where they're saying, oh yeah, we have to be understanding to these people who are coming here as refugees to our country and are raping our 13-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 5-year-olds.
There was some 10-year-old.
Yeah. We have to be understanding about that because, my attitude is F that. You can understand. You want to do that? You can go back to the sand bucket you came from.
Charles, Concierge on Periscope is asking if it might have been Asia Argento who said that about the fantasy.
That might have been. That's one of them. That's absolutely. That definitely is one of them. But there was another one though. It was. I think it was a Me Too accuser who initially was. No, it was somebody who accused Trump. And was taken credibly, either it came out in a book or whatever, until these transcripts came out about it. No, she was on CNN. She had this big book. She was on CNN, and she was in an interview on CNN, saying something about, in a positive way, about rape fantasies. And they're like, huh?
Who booked this lady?
Exactly. That's the last you ever heard of that one.
I do want to let our Periscope people know that I am watching the comments, but my multi-chat app here, I can't send comments to Periscope. So somebody on Periscope was worried the other day that I was neglecting Periscope. But Charles, I've been encroaching on your time here, and I know you want to tell everybody about what we're going to tell them today.
Yeah, so today I think I see many signs that we are making progress, and I say that because, not being a Pollyanna, I'm
E. Jean Carroll, people are saying.
That's right, exactly right. Okay. Very well done.
There we
go.
The
crowd at work.
Thank you for crowdsourcing
Thank you.
that.
But one needs to remember that, particularly when one imagines himself a possible defendant, that the government is supposed to do things in theory by the book when they prosecute you. And when they bring indictments, they're supposed to do that in secret, initially with a grand jury, and then eventually it goes public, and then you're innocent, actually innocent in this country, until the government affirmatively proves you guilty beyond whatever the standard is, a preponderance of evidence or beyond doubt. And so the fact that we have this guy, Bull Durham is not a good image if you know history, but John Bull Durham nonetheless is a tough dude who put a Republican governor in prison, aggressively in prison.
Who was that?
John Durham.
No, who was the governor? Oh.
In Connecticut, yeah.
Oh.
Rowland. He put a sitting Republican governor in prison, alongside, I think, with his wife. And so this is not somebody who he doesn't care, I don't think, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. He's just like not in for fraud. And the fact that this guy has been on the case, I want to say, for months. And I'm sure his team is far more conversant, familiar with the laws and the regulations, far better able to decide how to prosecute a case than you or I may be. But that said, we've been into the middle of this thing, and it's got many tentacles. And when you're sitting here as Donald Trump with now a soaring federal debt and allies that are not paying their fair share around the world, though paying more than they used to, and all these competing demands for the Green New Deal and this Medicare for all, and all these schemes where we don't remotely have enough money to pay for any of that stuff, it's good to be in a place, as we have been now for over 4 years, exposing this fraud, where you can legitimately go against the Bill Gateses, the Rockefeller Foundations, the Michael Bloomberg, the big billionaires who have either been actively engaged in promoting charity fraud or swept into charity fraud, and instead of doing something about it, said, yeah, we're just going to play along with it. You know, you've got a collection of people. Bernie now has this idea, he's floated for the first time, at least he's, in quotes, honest, that he wants to have a tax plan where billionaires will pay more than 100% of their annual income in taxes, because you're going to pay wealth tax on top of the income tax.
What?
And that's
so talk
because
about every single person in that category moving out of the country on day one.
Right, and you know, when you think about Bernie's wife, who, and I think it's, people riff all over Melania, people are, you know, said really nasty things about Melania Trump, and you know, at least her name is Melania, not Felonia, which is, you know, what I would call Bernie's wife, who bankrupted a college. And has not yet been taken into account for a massive charity fraud, though she has been investigated over it. You know, so we're now in a place, I think we have made progress, and people need to start asking the question, don't focus on the characters on stage, the Obama and the Clinton. Those are not, and the Bushes for that matter, those are not the ultimate puppeteers in this scandal. There are billionaires, and not trillionaires yet, but there are billionaires behind Obama, behind Clinton, behind Bush, who have been behaving badly, very badly, since 1988. And I don't think you take a retribution against somebody generally because they behave badly. But on the other hand, if you can tie them into provable charity frauds, as I think we've been doing, and then you can make the additional case of a pattern and practice of racketeering and corrupt practices, so you have a powerful case with treble damages, 3 times damages, you have cases that send people away for long periods of time, and you have cases where there are effectively no statutes of limitations. These are powerful tools that a Durham, a Barr, and other attorneys could use to really drain the swamp. And I think we're at a place now, when we see the squealing out of the Brennans, the CNNs, you know you're over the target.
Yeah.
And the squealing is certainly very high. So we'll spend some time talking about that. Got my eye on the clock, because Bilyana will join us in roughly an hour. And we're once again in this place where people who are around charities have to file by November 15th, 2019. They're going to have to file these lengthy tax forms again. And I'm going to specifically call out a number of firms. I'm going to call out Cohn Resnick, if you're still working for the Clinton Foundation. I'm going to call out Price Waterhouse, because you did a lot of work for the Clinton Foundation. I'm going to call out BKD, which is barely an accounting firm at this point. No reputation left as far as I could tell, and deservedly so. And then you have, of course, KPMG, who has been around this Clinton Foundation, enabling its frauds around the world. This is not now, in 15 November 2019, a time frame where you have the IRS run by Obama holdovers. This is not a time where you can say you didn't know about the previous 181 episodes and all the other appearances I've done about this Clinton Foundation, and that you were so sure of your ground that you never contacted us to say, well, we made this mistake or that mistake. You can't knowingly file the many audit. You can't perform an audit and then allow these foundations to file the state, the federal, the foreign tax forms they're going to have to file around November 15th, 2019, without escaping massive ultimate liability here, which is coming your way. So I would suggest you managing partners of these firms and people who have an economic stake inside those 4 accounting firms, I would mightily suggest that you get to the bottom inside your firms of what the management team thinks it's going to do. Because those 4 firms, I would argue, certain partners in those 4 firms, are part of the largest set of unprosecuted frauds in human history, and they are being noticed around the world. There are many governments that are looking at this around the world, and you are not going to get away with just covering all this stuff up.
Yeah. You know, you gave me an idea for the 200th episode, Charles.
What's that?
Well, if we could get Robin Leach, we could do Frauds Around the World with Robin Leach.
Is he still dead, though?
Is he dead?
Yeah, he might be.
I saw him on, maybe it was a repeat. I saw him on a show with some rapper.
I thought he had died, actually.
That would be sad if he's dead. I like Robin Leach.
Yeah. So just quickly on the disclaimer, it's important when people, if this is the first time you've seen the show and your subscribers are building, which is great, This is a different experience. I'm now seeing, and thanks for those who comment on the Twitter field, more and more people, Twitter feed rather, more and more people are actually watching this show. This is not a show for you to just sort of sit back, relax, and listen. This is a show to engage your mind, look further at the slides that we show each week, follow the links if you have the time, go to critics of Trump, get them to take a look at this material so that they understand the gravity of the situation. We do our level best to provide links to you so that you can see where's the source material for the assertions that we make. We encourage you to get active and think about it. If you want to help this show, obviously, Jason would be most grateful for any subscribers that you, or one-time payments or both. But it's also valuable to go and, in addition to doing that, to supporting the show financially, Jason's show financially, it's important that you tell friends about this show, because word of mouth does really help build audience.
Yeah.
And we're at the stage now where I think the circles, we now have in our Twitter feeds, Jason and I each have people with many, many followers. So we're beginning to see, despite the shadow banning, which may be occurring, despite the way in which Twitter is managed, we're seeing growth in the subscriber base. I'm seeing growth in the engagement, and I spend actually more time now going into Twitter than I used to.
Yeah. And people who aren't following you yet, Charles, should definitely go over there and find you at Charles Ortel. Very easy Twitter handle to remember.
Yeah, that's by design.
Well done.
So just the same as my site, same name, same idea.
Yes.
But, and of course, Crowdsource the Truth. So we've been over the playlist, I think, already, and we can maybe just jump into the...
Yes.
Yeah. So I know there's schools of thought about whether Durham's making progress, and some people say whatever happened to Huber, the Salt Lake City or Utah-based one.
Yeah.
But this was a story that's been attacked. Now, it was in the Times, and it was attacked, it's being attacked by the conservative treehouse people with good reason. But this story and variants of it have been in the Washington Post, et cetera. They're beginning to call into question, why is John Durham now going after these national intelligence security figures? Is Barr lost the plot? Is this, outrageous? And, when you start seeing that questioned in the New York Times, you know that there's something perhaps excellent brewing here, and that is that the intelligence side, the quotes intelligence side of our government, has never really been regulated. There's always an excuse they can use, like you get to a point where you put up this argument or that argument, and they can always throw out, well, listen, I can't tell you the whole truth. You're not covered for that level of classification, and if you knew the truth, then you'd understand why I'm doing this. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I want to know the truth, and you can forget about this classification crap. So
state secret privilege we've heard about many times.
So there's this great story here, actually, the second one, intimating that this is by Larry Johnson, who was in the CIA, and who is suggesting, and I think with some good reason, that the FBI and DOJ are going to go after Brennan and Clapper and others. Because really what was going on here, I think we see the same thing now with this idiot Schiff, who's chairman of the Lack of Intelligence Committee in the House. When you can't bring a prosecution along or an oversight function in the Judiciary Committee, you do it in the Intelligence Committee, and that allows you to invoke all these classification issues and secrecy issues and whatever, and they're different standards. What people don't want to understand is that in order to conduct an intelligence operation against an American, that requires approvals very high up, and I'm told by some, including the President of the United States.
Wow.
So anything that would have involved going after Trump and others during the 2015-16 cycle likely had Obama's fingerprints all over it. And we know just from his admissions, and people are talking about how Mulvaney and Trump have admitted to criminal behavior, impeachable behavior with regard to Ukraine. How many times did Barack Obama brag about how involved he was in campaigns, how he enjoyed campaigns, followed them very closely, et cetera, et cetera. So to think that a man who is just besotted with making sure that his legacy was lasting, to think that he wouldn't care about who won the 2015-16 election cycle is absurd. Of course he cared. And as a guest, I think we're going to discover, this is not Johnson's point, but mine, I think we're going to discover that Obama and the Clinton people actually probably wanted Trump to be the nominee because they assumed that he would never win, and the Clintons knew him from New York and assumed that they could get all this kind of dirt and use it effectively as they tried to do in the last minute, and that just didn't work for them. So we have a story coming out of Ukraine, which is interesting, the third story here, and I don't know if it's true, and anybody who can help confirm or deny whether it's true. People are claiming, I've had different reports actually come to me, this has almost 7,000 Facebook shares, that stuff's going on in Ukraine, and palaces are being raided, and documents are being taken, and
that's awesome.
Well, you see, this makes sense to me. When I got involved back in 2015 in March before Hillary announced, and because I have some experience with foundations and grants and things like that, when I got involved and looked at the Clinton file and did not see what I expected to see, after action reports, granular breakdowns of spending, and then I saw the spread of its international activity, I reasoned that there have to be a lot of governments and a lot of government files that eventually will come out. And that's what I think we're starting to see now, that we've mentioned Australia, we've mentioned Norway, here in Ukraine, I think in England and France, in Canada, we've got an election coming up on Monday in Canada. There's a lot of files, and people have done their level best to hide these files. But once you spend 8 years saying that nothing happened, but you don't destroy the files, or you have, let's say, 600,000 emails on Uma Abedin's laptop with greasy wiener on it.
But wait a minute.
There's a lot of evidence. The E in the email stands for evidence. And so now we have stuff coming out which seems to suggest that maybe there's a hell of a lot more. And this Open Society Foundation, that's Soros.
Exactly. But I do want to point out one important thing. Everybody knows I think Adam Schiff is an absolute douche. However, we got to go with facts and evidence. And this article is saying, here's Adam Schiff's signature. I'm 99.999% certain that this is a rubber stamp of Adam Schiff's signature that somebody has stamped on here, because this smudge looks odd to me.
That may well be the way he does
roughness. But look at how, we can't zoom in on this much more, but it doesn't look like it's written by a pen. The distressed nature of this looks more like a stamper to me than a pen. And it's also, the date is written in a different pen than the signature. This is written in pen. Look at how much thicker the line is from this thing than it is from a pen. And again, I'm not saying anything other than Adam Schiff may well have himself or someone else stamped his own signature on this so that it serves as an official document authorizing whatever he wants, but then later when it comes out he can say, well, I didn't sign that, somebody stamped it.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is slightly different. I take your points on the signature, but my point is that with regard to the Clinton Foundation and its worldwide activities, there is so much evidence in the public domain. Witness, the 181 previous episodes we've done. There's so much evidence out there that once a government makes a decision to, as they say in Japan, open up the kimono, everything comes out, and we're starting to see this now. We're seeing Australia say, "Yeah, well, good day, mate. We'll help you out." The Norwegian people are helping out, are starting to help out. The Swedes damn well better start helping out, because if they don't, their country is going to be crushed.
But do you think, Charles, that report indicates that the president of Ukraine took Donald Trump's advice to heart and that they're doing an investigation and raiding palaces?
I hope so.
Seems like it.
I sincerely hope so, because the situation in Ukraine, as I said, I think in a prior show, is a lot like the state of Illinois, in that the leader of the country, is the leader of the country or the state, and then they always go to jail, typically, afterwards, with some exceptions. But Ukraine has had a very thorny period where various popular leaders either are forced to leave the country or end up in prison and then leave the country or whatever. So there's there's been a lot of stealing over there.
Yeah.
But we're going to, I hope, soon find out more of the truth. I'm loving this. Susan Rice, is another Rhodes Scholar. Who,
is she?
Yeah, who is wealthy and also married somebody who's wealthy. And she was on Bill Maher.
With this idiot.
With Susan Rice.
Wait, is this CNN guy on Bill Maher or Bill Maher on CNN?
No,
That was Chris Cuomo there.
No. That's a Yahoo story about the Bill Maher story. But the substance of what I was trying to get at is Susan Rice came on this show, the Bill Maher show, and Trump decided to rebuke her on air, and that's gotten all this attention. But Susan Rice has some fucking nerve, that lady. I mean, she's the one who lied straight into the faces of the entire world on 5 Sunday shows about Benghazi. She knew the truth. She went out there. And this is a classic pattern. And I honestly, if I were a black woman, I'd be pretty pissed off about this. The puppeteers say, well, we'll find a black woman to defend the case because nobody will go after the black woman because then they'll be accused successfully of racism. And both Clintons are masters at doing that. And here's Barack Obama, a black president, allowing this to happen with Susan. I mean, Susan Rice either she is completely stupid. I mean, Hillary Clinton, present day stupid, which I don't think she is, or shameless, which I do think she is. And she's just, we can't let, if the truth be known about Benghazi, then Barack Obama would never be reelected. We can't let that happen. We've got to lie. We can't let Mitt Romney, maybe she was doing us a favor, not letting Mitt Romney be president. But I find it interesting that, the pressure is really rising now on these people who are running the world for our benefit, Susan Rice, et cetera. The story I was talking about this is a long story. We won't try to get into it, but basically, whoever this person is, Sundance, on The Last Refuge, does really good work. And there were basically, according to this person, 3 groups of people: people in the DOJ, FBI, people in the CIA and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and people in the State Department, all trying to basically lie to the American public different ways, all try to cover their tracks for different reasons. And under Obama, and in the early period of the Trump administration, before he really was in charge as much as he is now, these were all of the same mind. They had been involved for years, maybe decades, collaborating on these projects, which would tend to enrich allies and political donors and themselves. And those who realized what might happen with the Trump victory were saying, we can't let this guy stay in power. We're done if that happens. We can get shot for treason in certain cases. We can't let this keep going. So this gang of thieves has been against Trump and against the concept of actually running a nation, the U.S., to follow the Constitution. Instead, they want unregulated globalism, because these are the people who, they know where the bodies are buried, literally. They have had access for decades to a lot of secrets, and they know that they've broken the law as well. And so they're terrified.
I tell you, Charles, you think deplorables, and you look at this group.
Right.
That's what you got.
Right, and someday I hope some people will actually do the movie of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and try to think through. Maybe the people who are working on machine learning and AI and all that kind of stuff will take their brains apart, keeping them alive, of course, and try to understand how you could be leading as Strzok an investigation of Hillary's email, at the same time then trigger an investigation into Trump, be cheating on your wife, cheating on your mistress, and all these people are cheating on one another. Page, I think, was living in McCabe's house.
Nice.
And it's just like, how do you
McCabe or Strzok's house?
McCabe.
So Page is living in
She's
McCabe's
married.
house.
She's married.
She's married.
Strzok's married. Page and Strzok are having an affair. page.
And she's living at...
Well, she can't stay at home.
McCabe's house. I think I have a title for the film, Peter Strokes Lisa Page.
Lisa's pages. Anyway, but it's just, to me, I hope as we dig into this, we can't forget, and that article does mention, that this top staffer, and on these committees, the intelligence committees, some of the big committees, the top staffers on these committees are very powerful people. Mm-hmm. They decide which witnesses come, they script everything. Of course, the senators most of them don't want to work. So they acquire a lot of power. Remember that the head of a senior person on the Senate Intelligence Committee is in prison or was fined or whatever for giving all kinds of secrets to this.
Put him in charge.
Yeah, to this reporter, I think, then at the New York Times, Ali Watkins.
Oh, didn't he have sex with her?
Yeah, he's sleeping with her, and it's just, I guess it's the same thing. He's on the Struck Page program.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so we haven't really dwelt on it. Now we're going to take some time. I mean, we don't really talk about Hillary all that much, I don't think. We didn't do that special cartoon short that I think was rather prescient years ago. But this latest thing, to say that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, to double and triple down on this. Tulsi Gabbard is still in the U.S. military reserve.
It's so stupid.
Right? It just tells me a few things. So first of all, it tells me that, we should get down on our hands and knees and thank whoever you want to thank, whatever God, whatever accident of nature. You ought to wake up every morning and thank God that Hillary Clinton is not our president. This is delusional behavior.
Yeah.
And to take on, there used to be a rule, I think, that you don't take on people in your same party. Republicans were happy to say
that's out the window.
And here's Hillary Clinton with a straight face taking somebody. Now, I disagree with Tulsi Gabbard many policy positions. I do admire some of her observations about the war, perpetual war machine and things like that. But for Hillary Clinton, who, let's face it, she got her Senate job, in my opinion. It was an early version of the Kobe Bryant, apology ring. Bill Clinton had to do something. And after his egregious, embarrassing behavior with Monica Lewinsky, and so he said, I'll get you elected in New York.
How did Bill do that?
Oh, with all the money people behind Bill, Vernon Jordan and Terry McAuliffe, and New York is basically a Democrat-controlled place and will be for a long time. As I guess, here's your concession. I screwed up with Lewinsky. You're not getting a diamond. You'll get a U.S. Senate seat. And that's basically what had she got reelected.
Kobe Bryant also got his wife a pink Lamborghini Diablo that he had an automatic transmission installed into at a time when they didn't make that. Yeah. That's money.
That's serious money. Yeah, but you could steal more money as a corrupt U.S. Senator and Secretary of State than you can in a Lamborghini. And plus, you got to pay insurance in a Lamborghini.
Exactly.
So, but honestly, what you like to see in a truly powerful person, if you're going to give enormous power to somebody, you want to hope that person will not be so sure of his or herself that person will never ask a question. And I think Hillary Clinton is so sure that she's right on everything. That she's not listening to advisors. She lately, in response to Hillary Clinton, Tulsi Gabbard, it's a bad word to say, but I'm going to use it anyway, just bitch slap the hell out of Hillary. We used that thing before. This is a really brutal rejoinder on Twitter that's getting a hell of a lot of attention because Hillary has doubled and tripled down, so Tulsi's doubled and tripling down. 136,000 people are talking about this, 291,000.
It's so funny how bad Hillary Clinton is at using Twitter. It's she's like totally having it explode. She's the Wile E. Coyote of Twitter.
Exactly. I tweeted that out, actually.
Did you?
It's something about Hillary running from reality with a Acme Safe Wile E. Coyote thing. I did that.
Yeah,
really but the comments on this is just,
super entertaining.
It's not going. It's like drunk tweeting. This is really. And this person could well have been. People are giving bunk to Trump about you shouldn't tweet so much. Here is somebody making a fool, just destroying her own reputation. And most recently, she's come out and said that 10-year-olds, we've got to worry about 10-year-olds hacking the election.
Yeah.
I mean, what does she want to do next? Round up all the 10-year-olds? Like, you can't vote, but until this election is over, we're keeping you away from your computer.
I think the 10-year-olds are busy playing Fortnite or whatever the latest video game is.
I mean, look at this picture.
Hillary Clinton is a total disaster, Charles. It's really... this is the picture we used in the You've Got Jail poster.
You mean the fantastic You've Got Jail. That was one of the better ones.
Yeah, I think that is included in the Sunday with Charles screensaver, which is still a free gift to sponsors who join patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth at $10 a month or higher.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's a frightening picture.
Yeah, indeed. But back to the slides.
Yeah. And we don't need to pull up the Jill Stein one, but Jill Stein is also a Russian asset, according to Hillary Clinton, and
she's more of a hippie, isn't she?
Well, she's a PhD. I mean, she's a medical doctor, Jill Stein, I think. And but here, Van Jones, and I don't agree with Van Jones on almost anything, but here, Van Jones, to his great credit, is calling out Hillary Clinton, because you know when you are somebody, when you're Hillary Clinton, like it or not, and you make a pronouncement, it's going to get enormous media attention, particularly if it's this outrageous and controversial. People will say, well, she wouldn't say that if it weren't true, you know, and around the world, BBC will play it, you know, next thing you know, it's all over Chinese media and German media and, you know, all across the mainstream media. And this is the kind of stuff that you should not say unless you're very, very sure. And the thing about this particular allegation, it's not like this is the first time that Hillary Clinton has said, you know, somebody is a Russian asset, when, as Secretary of State, she allowed 20% of America's uranium supply to go to a Russian-controlled company and had her husband collect, you know, $500,000 speaking fee in Russia, and who knows how much other money went to the Clintons via Russia. So, I mean, this is just outrageous behavior from somebody who doesn't even have the courage to sign up to be in the presidential race. You know, who thinks that what she could do is knock all the Democrat pieces off the board and be appointed by, you know, just at the convention without bothering to be any primaries or spending any money on campaign.
But that's already been proven in the Beck's lawsuit against the DNC that they can and will do exactly that.
Right.
They've even said in a legal pleading that it's their right to do it.
Right. You know, so it's not a particularly great picture of Tulsi, sadly.
A bad picture of Tulsi Gabbard is 1,000 times better than the best picture of Hillary Clinton. Irrespective of what we think of her politics,
right.
She's a pretty woman.
Yeah. So this is really, I mean, and again, it's a side comment, but when we think about what the Chinese people are doing to Chinese residents of Hong Kong,
oh yeah,
we should be asking, looking at the Democrat behavior against Tulsi Gabbard, if this is what Democrat establishment will do to one of their own, a rising star in their party, think of what they're going to do to anybody who is an independent or, God forbid, a Republican. I mean, this is not the party of tolerance. This is the party of, you know,
tyrants,
of craziness, of looniness. So on the Brexit thing, at this point, I don't have a clue what's going to happen. You know, you hear the stories out there. It's like when I was in business school and taking elementary cost accounting, and the professor got up there and, you know, very credibly said, "You're supposed to do it this way," and we all shook our heads and said, "Oh, that sounds good." And he said, "Oops, I got it wrong. You're supposed to do it the opposite way, and you should this way, that way, another way." We just said, "Fuck it, we're never going to figure this out."
That's what Boris Johnson is saying, right?
I think he is. He's like, "Why am I here?" But in the end, I believe there will be a Brexit. Who knows by what day? And there'll be somebody who's decided he or she or a group are going to be the heroes that get this done.
What is this?
But
they're just going to reset this in 11 days, 3 hours and 1 minute.
No, that's the deadline.
Oh, Boris Johnson promises.
No, that's a legal obligation, 31st of October.
Huh. Oh, really? So I wonder.
Yeah, and they're supposed to have a deal. The question is, are they going to have a negotiated deal or a so-called hard Brexit? And I guess we don't really need to invest a lot of time studying it. We could just wait till October 31st, let Halloween happen, go out on November 1st, read the newspapers. It happened, it didn't happen. It's kind of my attitude.
You can dress as Boris Johnson for Halloween, Charles.
But I would tell you on the dress as Boris Johnson, definitely not as Hillary Clinton. But on Canada though.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Canada. This is interesting. I can't see the video, but apparently he actually is taking a tumble in the polls, but he also fell down.
Did we miss that?
Yeah.
Let's watch that again.
He comes out.
It's from the Hillary
Clinton. He walks directly into as Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I learned that from Hillary.
That's not so bad, though. I mean, he's not looking, and I mean, he recovered. He doesn't seem drunk or anything.
Yeah. It's pretty funny to look at. I mean, good reflexes, actually.
Good, yeah. I mean, he's a young guy. He's younger than me. How old is he?
I think he's in
30s, right?
Late 30s, yeah.
He's too young to be the president of Canada. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Or prime minister, yeah.
Whatever he is.
Both.
It's a dope.
Yeah. But, I think, we finish on that one quickly. I tweeted out that, here's Barack Obama. We think about how many people who wore blackface is Barack Obama going to endorse in America?
Trudeau. It was brown face.
No, it was blackface.
They said
many
brown
times.
Face. They were trying
and I think that shows appalling. I mean, to do it in, let's say, 1960 would be one thing. To do it, not saying it's good. 2001, that's a little weird. And as a young guy, I mean, Trudeau was then very, very young. And now young people do stupid things, but then you have to ask yourself, are they grown up enough yet to be prime minister? And I think the answer is not so much. Yeah. But he did learn a lot from, Obama learned from the Trudeaus on how to run a crooked foundation.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people asked me what the hell was up with this letter that Senator Grassley sent. Apparently he'd asked questions about the Clinton email investigation. An unclassified version of the report has come out. In other words, this report doesn't get into what you might conclude if you had the classification high enough to see what really went out there. And just based on a review of unclassified stuff, they're saying multiple individuals committed multiple security violations and made other problems 497 times. But don't worry, it wasn't deliberate, so we don't have to worry about it. I mean, bullshit, don't worry, it wasn't deliberate. The United States government had robust classification and security systems in place that you are supposed to use as the Secretary of State and staff. The decision to use your toilet bowl server and the unvetted devices for not 5% of your stuff, not the odd thing, but for 100% of all your communications, in my view, was made because the Clintons had been on the wrong side of the scrutiny exercise when Bill was president, and people demanded to see emails that had gone onto the government system, and Bill and Hillary and others didn't want those emails to be seen, so they said they were destroyed. Bush did the same thing. They knew they were going to be engaged covering up the fraud at the Clinton Foundation, and they had to have the ability to send those emails the way they did send them. And to say that you see no evidence of intent here is to say that you're a bonehead. You're a corrupt bonehead, anybody who would write that. And of course, this thing went out, and right away it's, well, Grassley's office said it went out. That means there isn't anything here. It's been investigated. It's old news. Let's get Hillary Clinton to say something preposterous about Tulsi Gabbard, and we'll just change the whole debate. And when it comes up again, people say, oh, you're just mired in minutia here. And when you look at the letter, though, it also does say, in red here, that a lot of the stuff they wanted to see, they weren't able to see it.
Right.
Right? So this is one of your, I don't know, it's like an award that company I was talking about would, you could get an award from them saying, yeah, there's no problem here, there's this award over here. It's like, or, I'm an admiral, I'm American, a member of the American Airlines Admiral Club. That makes me an admiral. I mean, come on.
I think you can get free breakfast at the airport.
Fancy cards.
Nice.
Anyway, so that's enough on this Grassley thing. Quickly, though, this is something that I found to be very juicy. I had skipped over, remember I said the dump 36 came out on Hillary Clinton's classified email investigation, and it's 170 odd pages. So I scanned through it, and lo and behold, I get to this. This I got two ways. I got it actually from that vault and then also from WikiLeaks. The vault file has the name of the sender of this email blanked out, but the one down here, WikiLeaks, proves that it's Sheryl Sandberg, the chief operating officer of Facebook.
Whoa.
Okay? Now, sends an email, the email went in before this, so if you go to the top of the page, 2 days before Valentine's Day, next page. February 12th, 2012, okay? This is before Uma Abedin becomes a special government employee and starts working for the Clinton Foundation. This is in late June 2012. Uma becomes a special government employee. She's working for the Clintons personally. She's working for the foundation. She's working for Teneo, and she's working for the taxpayers. How this person is able to take 4 jobs at once is beyond me. But here's an email that went to that guy, that awful guy, Philip Reince, you know, the PR hit person.
Oh, Philippe
Reince, it's pronounced. Yeah. Sheryl Sandberg, on February 12, 2012, chief operating officer of Facebook, sends this gushing email in because Hillary had been interviewed in Elle magazine. And she says,
El Chapo magazine.
Yeah, it says here, the highlight of my last few weeks was not the filing of Facebook's S1. What that means, Facebook has finally agreed to go public, right? And that means that Mark Zuckerberg and Sandberg and all these people who are insiders were going to become, you know, zillionaires off it. It wasn't that, you know, because money doesn't matter to me.
Right.
It was the chance to sit next to you at dinner. This woman is so far up Hillary Clinton's ass on February 12, 2012. She's the one who later writes Leaning In. She's all into the Hillary Clinton campaign. And the folks who are investigating the 2015-16 election cycle are worried that a bunch of Macedonian people are purchasing Facebook ads when here's the chief operating officer reporting from inside Hillary Clinton's ass, February 12, 2012. I am leaning in. I'm all the way in for you. You know, the power that Facebook has. I mean, and nobody's going to investigate these big tech companies, the Googles, the Amazons, the other people, for their role in manipulating public opinion during the 2012 election, the 14, the 16, the 18, and now the 20. I mean, this to me, initially I almost passed over this because I thought maybe this is Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos, but she didn't have an S1. And then I thought to just Google around a little bit more, and I got confirmation. It is indeed Sheryl Sandberg.
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, if you hit this link, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is. I wanted to make sure people thought about this.
They got to get Julian Assange out of that jail.
Look at this. Sheryl Sandberg from Philippe Reince.
Crazy.
You know, this thing was October 30th, 2015. This was released. You know, you have it. I thought this J was odd in there, but I don't know what the J is there for.
J Facebook. Maybe
I thought
I
thought I made a typo, but evidently not. So.
Oh no! You know what it is? It looks like they're using vertical lines here to separate, and this is another. They probably got a printout of this and scanned it and did OCR, and that's another OCR type.
I got you. There you go.
Looks like a vertical line between like road.
I see what you mean. It could be the Facebook insignia that didn't copy properly.
Something like that. Something like that. Interesting, Charles.
So I thought people would want to.
You've uncovered another gem there. So
then, if you look at the next page, I want to remind people here that we've done multiple shows. We've done one where we just highlighted this email that talked about the high-level State Department whistleblower who sent a letter. We have a copy in another show of the letter. I didn't want to put it in because it's very lengthy, but I went and heard Andy McCarthy talk about his new book a number of weeks ago, and afterwards I went up to him because he was talking about how this whole effort to get Trump started in May of 2016, and I said, that's not true at all. I think it started way before, it might have started before the 2012 election, but it certainly started by January of 2016. Here's this episode we know about where a highly placed State Department whistleblower, just at the same time that they're trying to concoct all these issues about Russia leaking, a highly placed whistleblower sends a letter with thumb drives and stuff direct to Dopey James Comey and demanding that return receipt requested. Of course, Dopey doesn't do anything about it.
Well, he's busy decorating Christmas trees, steeping tea, and walking in the woods.
He's trying to make an appointment to meet Sheryl Sandberg.
Playing with Star Wars Legos.
Exactly. counting his Benjamins, all his crooked jobs that he's done in the past. Meanwhile, so this guy says, I've had it, and here we do know it as a guy. It says he did this and he did that and he what. So the people who are sleuths can figure out who this person is. Is this the same person who has come forward not as a whistleblower to say Trump did something wrong, but as a whistleblower in the State Department to say that the whistleblowers who are blabbing are full of shit on Trump? So is this the same person who's coming forward, or yet another? And how many whistles are there available in the State Department to blow? I mean, because a lot of blowing going on.
That's a question for Barack Obama.
Exactly. And so we have here, this happened by the 27th of January 2016. This person went to the FBI, sat down in the Washington field office and said, look, I got some serious fucking problems with what's going on in the State Department with Hillary and Barack Obama trying to run the State Department for Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's personal political benefit and enrichment. Remember, in this time frame, the Amwan family, who you've talked about extensively, they're still entrenched. They haven't been caught out yet. Seth Rich is still alive. And, what we still don't know, with all this 30+ million that was spent by Mueller and his team, we still don't know what the hell actually happened in this crucial period, January 2016, through the reports of the hacking or the leaking out of the DNC, through the Seth Rich. We don't know any of this. Nobody's explained how a Comey who gets all this incriminating information from this credible source, refuses to look at it, then somehow Giacolone, the FBI's top guy, one of the top guys here, he just says, I've had it, I'm not going to do any of this. And what happened to this information that was turned over by this whistleblower? Okay? If we go to, and remember, we've been down to 77 Water Street in New York. We know the Clintons had one secret office that they started populating with Dennis Chang and others in July of 2011. And we know the Clintons are the king and queen of mean and of opposition research. And so what better place to do opposition research is down in Water Street in the financial district, maybe with the FBI's help. You put a list together and you say, I want tax records of my opponents, I want financial records, I want any kind of, monkey business records, and let's put it in an office we're not going to disclose. Let's have the Clinton Foundation pay for it. Let's have the personnel in the office be operatives to the Clinton Foundation, paid by the Clinton Foundation. Of course, New York Attorney General is not going to look at it. We've got the IRS gamed. We've got the Justice Department gamed. I mean, if you want to get into intent and understanding what actually happened, you've got to go back into time. Not just to July of 2011, but as I'll show you in a second, even earlier. So we have this. I don't know that I put this precise thing up in the past, but here's a memo, the 15th of February 2001, an FBI memo. The link is here, but it says that so-and-so, and I think it's Denise Rich, contributed to the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, a foundation to support the Clinton Library. This is written on the 15th of February 2001. At that time, I can say categorically the Clinton Foundation should have had its authority to operate retroactively revoked by that day. It had never had an audit done, an independent financial audit of its financials. There are all sorts of different problems with it. We've been through this ad nauseum. I came up with a new way to spell library. You see here.
That's good.
But this link here, we don't have to pull it up, is a link to a legal decision where this legal decision was settled October 27th, 2005, and it says the idea for the creation of the library and complex began in 1992. This is in a legal decision issued in Arkansas, lengthy legal decision saying this affirmatively began in 1992. Well, in the application for federal tax exemption, it doesn't say that. It says it was organized October 23rd, 1997. Then you get into, and we've been through some of this before, but the new viewers, in each of these time frames, an annual report on Form 990 was required. None was filed in 1997 of any time, and all the ones for 98, 99, 2000 are wrong. Financial audit was required. There was no audit filed of any kind for these years. You're supposed to have 3 or more trustees. We don't know how many they had in 97. It's not clear yet. We know they may have had 3 in 98, but in 99 they had only 2 by their own admission, which is a bright line failure of the operational test, and the IRS would look at that and say, you are not, with this evidence, you are just a plaything for the Clinton family. You're not a real organization separate and apart from the Clintons. You're just a plaything. It's being run from Washington, D.C. There's nobody in Arkansas to speak of with any stature who could stand up to the Clintons. And you never bothered to register in Washington, D.C. for this thing or anywhere else lawfully. So, and you haven't explained exactly what happened with the Clintons. So you're not a real foundation.
They do have an IMAX theater there, Charles.
But this is the first day of the investigation into the William J. Clinton Library. They should have shut it down that day. It should have been like, all right, if we're the superstar FBI, that I think there are elements of the superstar FBI, they'd be given this job, they'd have 50 agents on the case or 20 or whatever, and one of them would say, all right, this operates from New York. Let's look at the audit that's been filed. And they come back, hey boss, there's no audit. Well, let's look at this, that, whatever. It should have taken them a week to shut this thing down, right? So who are the people on this team that missed this? Mueller, Comey, and maybe Rosenstein. Okay, were they involved in all this Russian hoax investigation? A little bit, right? So if you want to understand why they're trying so hard to get Trumpy, in particular on the foundation issues, this is a central piece about it. Any report that comes out that doesn't examine these issues, doesn't examine with the classification email thing prior to January 2009 is bullshit, right? It's a cover-up unless it goes all the way back into this Clinton Foundation stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a remarkably huge number of people who still think that because they investigated and closed down the Trump Foundation, that indicates that somehow Hillary Clinton has done nothing wrong. I saw a tweet just the other day from somebody who said, oh, there's been a total investigation of Hillary Clinton and she was exonerated.
Right, yeah, we remember, of course, that in school, typically you need 100 points to get an A+, or 103 or whatever out of 100. Some extra credit, and you fail if you get 65 points or less. Right. 65 is a lot of points, and there are a lot of people walking around who are proud to get a 52 on a test. So there are those people. Now, on the subject of whether the Clinton Foundation in New York actually existed, okay? Here's the FBI. Remember I told you that investigations opened February 15th, 2001. Here's Kamiki Gibson, who I think is a member of the New York Bar, issuing a report that has been confirmed by the Clinton Foundation, and John Solomon's reporting as if the real report was issued, even though it says draft. This report on November 10th, 2008 states it operates more like a political operation, i.e. slush fund, than a foundation. So you ask yourself, this is a report Kamiki, who's supposedly a good lawyer, had dated, it was the draft dated 10th of November 2008. When did the Clinton Foundation register in New York? You go onto the New York State site. On the 12th of May, 2009 is when they bothered to register in New York State. According to what's on the New York State files now, there is a previous registration that suggests they registered under a different name in June of 1998. But that report is way back in ancient days. It may or may not be complete. We don't know if we have the whole file. But after Barack was sworn in, January 20, 2009, something happened. There would have been emails. Of course, these are all missing because the toilet bowl server system only kicked in like March, April of 2009. So we don't know the genesis of why the Clinton Foundation was moved to register again in New York. But in that registration statement, which is available on the Charity Bureau site, we see that they admitted to conducting activity in New York State on the 10th of August, 2001, right? The FBI starts an investigation February 15th, 2001. And the Clinton Foundation says, okay, we don't care about the FBI. We're just going to start operating illegally on the 10th of August, 2001. We're not going to register. We have to. We're big enough to register. We're just going to operate. And it says here, we started maintaining assets on the 21st of November, 2006. Well, our friends around the world who are associated with governments of Ireland and France and England are going to remember that wires went to accounts in New York State prior to 21 November 2006. Please explain how that happened. These are sizable wires. Ireland supposedly claimed that they started on a program where they were going to give $158.6 million to the Clinton Foundation in July of 2003. Okay, how do you actually only start maintaining assets in New York 21 November 2006 when you're doing all this stuff in a bank account on 100 West 30th Street, Bank of America bank account, for which we have the routing number and the SWIFT, the bank account number? How do you do that? The answer is you can't do it lawfully. You must have a hell of a lot of credit and power, and who is needing money in this time frame? None other than Hillary Clinton, running for re-election. And it says here they started soliciting contributions on the 15th of January 2002 in New York from government agencies. There's no record of any government grants on the Clinton Foundation 990s from 1998 to 2007. They put in 0. Okay? You then have, it didn't actually, while it filed with the Attorney General on the 12th of May, they didn't bother to register in New York State, which you have to do to conduct business, until the 29th of July 2009. Right? That you see here. And then you have this Michael Smith link, if you could hit that for a second. He's done fantastic work. But this is a great piece to read for those of you who are saying, well, you don't understand why it's an issue. 1st of November 2016, lengthy site, links to previous posts, links to all kinds of supporting information. Great depth. And here you have a Politico story, May 2013, talking about how Hillary's gunning up. She's going to work with a Bloomberg ally. Then Braverman leaves. And if you stop right here, here is, in July 2008, Magaziner and this other guy informed the Clinton Foundation that they had been using grant funds from restricted grants. That's where I give you $23 million to do Crowdsource the Truth. You take $23 million and you go to the racetrack. You can't do that.
Oh.
And making it simple, that's what they did. But it's Ira Magaziner, king of the universe, Rhodes Scholar, and Anil Soni, protege of Rajat Gupta. These rules are for little people. We're globalists. We're saving the world. Of course we wouldn't waste the money. We only use it for good programs. More on that in a second, and hold that thought. But there's enough evidence in here in the public domain for even a bottom of the law school class Attorney General of New York State, for example. I'm not saying I know that she was bottom of the law school class, but the way she's behaving, she's acting as if she should have been. Even that person could look at this record and say, you know what, let's wind this crappy, RICO fraud operation up, and let's get some real money back into the coffers for New York State. So we've got a few minutes. I'll just try to rush through this. The next slide, Jason. Remember we've talked about this idea that you get a website, and you get, if you're a business, you could do this legally. You get a website, and then you get a way of having people wire you money, PayPal or something. And you do it with the official website of the Clinton Foundation. But then somebody says, you know what? I got a better idea. Why don't we change the name a little bit, and we'll start sending money to another bank account, okay? This is what I believe happened. I've gone on this who is lookup thing, and I obviously don't have all the names that may have been used, and people who are good at this could probably add to this list, and if you do, please send it in to me and we'll update this thing. But here are 7 examples of the Clinton Foundation first got a website under clintonfoundation.org on September 30th, 1999. Now, why is that an interesting date, Jason?
September 30th?
Yeah. Because Hillary Clinton first said, I may run for Senate on the 16th of February, 1999, and then officially in early July said in 1999, I might run for Senate in New York, and she might need some money. So I think if I were an FBI person with resources, I'd be going back into this, and I'd be cross-checking filings of the Clinton Foundation and filings of the Clinton campaign and filings of Clinton PACs and filing of the Democratic Party to check and see where money's being raised out of these various addresses and then being directed to bank accounts that were linked in and merged with the party or the family or whatever. Now, it's significantly in all this stuff, remember I said that prior to August of 2001, there was no Clinton Foundation legally in New York. Yet here you have, this application says September 30th, it's filed by a Clinton Foundation in New York. There is no such thing. And then October 12th, another one in New York, and a different one, the 1st of December 2000 in New York, the fourth one, again in New York. There was no Clinton Foundation lawfully organized in New York. There were no people in New York for the Clinton Foundation at that point, other than potentially Hillary and her staff. Bill was living in the White House. They had Chappaqua late in 2000, 2001, but not, I don't believe, in 1999. So what was this Clinton Foundation in New York? And who's checking any of this?
People are asking how this coincides with the July 16th, 1999 death of JFK Jr.
Well, yeah, there's a question about that. Was it July?
That's what Wikipedia says,
Yeah.
July 16th, 1999.
Yeah. So, and then after the post, he started the post-presidency, again, new names, ClintonPresidentialLibrary.com in 2003, right before the Irish say they're going to put $158 million into the Clinton Foundation. Remember, there's no money supposedly being managed by the Clinton Foundation in New York State, right, according to their filings in New York State. So who is around the Clintons who knows something about the internet? If you go down the page a little bit, we have this guy who I honestly think he's one of these people who probably is, sounds fantastic in a meeting. He's got the jargon down. He's really,
I'm sure
wise.
He doesn't know a damn thing about it.
But he's got the ability to just see people say the guy's a fucking genius, And so let's let him screw up the Brown curriculum. Let's let him screw up a city in Massachusetts. Let's let him screw up the healthcare system. Let's let him consult for all, and let's let him get involved with the internet. And this is a story that came out right before the Clinton Foundation. He was the internet czar. He'd been studying the internet for 15 months. He gets interviewed. Right? Gets interviewed. That makes him an expert. Interviewed by the New York Times, and they describe this guy. The healthcare debacle of President Clinton's first term seems all but forgotten. Architect of that, Ira Magaziner. He's still thinking big, really big about the internet. What's his answer? What does he suggest they do in terms of regulation? Not much. We don't want to do any rules and regulations. Then you're going to catch the fraud I'm going to get involved with. And I mean, somebody needs to take this guy, Ira Magaziner, and his son, who's the treasurer was the treasurer, I think, or is the treasurer of the state of Rhode Island. Take these people by the scruff of their neck and say, Manafort style, all your bank accounts around the world, disclose all that kind of stuff. How did you get so rich in this time frame? How did you wrest the Clinton Health Access Initiative away from the Clinton Foundation? What has really been going on with your Clinton procurement consortium and your SJS advisors and your other ventures around the world? You need to take the family, the husband, the wife, the kids, and subject them to the type of aggressive questioning that you generally engage in as the FBI and the IRS when you encounter a potential fraud of this magnitude. So let's talk about, quickly, in the last two pages before we get Bilyana, some funny examples. We've talked about the Clinton Climate Initiative, and people will remember that thing does not legally exist. So who are the people who funded the Clinton Climate Initiative? Magaziner's very clever. Bloomberg, still very rich, mayor of New York, they get to him and he's all excited to be the first city in America to subscribe to the C40 Large Cities Climate Summit, which was hosted by the Clinton Climate Initiative, May 14th to 17th, 2007, an entity that did not exist, but somehow a multi-billionaire who runs Bloomberg, which is a top,
Who hates soda.
Does not like the big gulps of soda, that is, and he's sitting there and he says, this is great, Ira Magaziner, I love the dude. Well, of course we'll get involved with this, right? And you get Rupert Murdoch through his daughter, Catherine. She's actually working from 2007 to 2011, working for the Clinton Climate Initiative, inside the Clinton Climate Initiative, not noticing that it doesn't exist. She's that smart. Giving money to us, hey, father-in-law, give us some money. And father-in-law makes a mistake. It says various places that either James or News Corp or whatever gave, some accounts in the Clinton Foundation papers say $5 million, others say 500,000, but in this New Yorker magazine, which I cite a link here, it says that they gave, that News Corp gave $500,000 to the Clinton Climate Initiative. Now, at the time when that donation may have happened, there's one former employee of the Clinton Foundation still working in News Corp, and his name is Jim Kennedy. There's another ally of the Clintons working at a senior level in News Corp. And I think, people really need this. There's a long sort of positive article about the Clintons and suggesting that by the force of Bill Clinton's personality, he's going to move Rupert Murdoch to the left.
Ah.
And, we see some of that at Fox. But to me, it's just amazing to me that this Catherine Murdoch would actually end up working inside the Clinton Climate Initiative and never stop to check, or lawyers would never stop to check, or Murdoch's lawyers would never stop to check and say, before I let my daughter-in-law get involved with this very political family accused of corruption, I might just want to check and make sure that the Clinton Climate Initiative exists. Why do that? I'll just give him $5 million.
And Charles, isn't it true that super rich guys like Murdoch are generally pretty skeptical of what their dopey relatives and
absolutely.
kids are getting into, because everybody's always coming at them trying to steal money?
Yeah, exactly. And here we have, the other thing I've noticed is people who don't really know what they're doing tend to set up foundations with stupid names. And here's one, the Quadrivium Foundation is the one that Ms. Murdoch has set up. What the hell does Quadrivium mean?
What is it supposed to do?
Do you really want your employees to have to go around the world and answer that question every time? I work for the Quadrivium Foundation. Is that a disease? Is that something like you got to take a pill for that, or what?
It may cause yawn, tremor, vomiting.
That's right. So if we go then to this description of her is because she's now gone on the board of Rockefeller University, which is extremely financially rich, and a surprise that she would get such an award. Well, let's think about, maybe it's a surprise and maybe it isn't. Let's look at the Rockefeller, the next page. This is what I'm jokingly referred to. It's actually called the CPR initiative in the Rockefeller Foundation. I call it the crap initiative is what you look at it. This is something, when you read through this fine print, I'll summarize it for you. The Rockefeller Foundation decided to give the Clinton Climate Initiative, an entity that did not exist, a 5-year commitment for $2 million a year. This initiative was conceived in 2008, right? So the Clinton Foundation did not exist. This is an excerpt, the Climate Initiative did not exist. This is an excerpt from an after-action report done by yet another one of these ridiculous firms that's in the business of producing reports to tell a foundation, yeah, everything's fine, I've got diagrams, I got this. Don't ask me where the money went, but I got diagrams, I got scatter plots, I got bibliographies, I got acronyms, I got whatever. I had it printed.
It's a great business model when you're in the business of producing reports about how great things are going.
Right, they're fantastic, And it says RF would be justified, this is for the independent expert saying, in concluding that its support to Clinton Climate Initiative has not delivered against its original objectives, and that the results that have been delivered have been more modest than expected. And there's an excuse. Neither parties knew how this would develop, but the initial agreement was for 5 years support at approximately $2 million a year. Then they say, the most successful country, Guyana, seemed to work so much so, and I'm sorry for this, my Norwegian friends, so much so that this diabolical experiment that was a joke is going to be used as a template for the Norwegian government to give it $70 million in follow-on financing. In other words, we're not going to touch this pig again because these people came in and promised us the sun and the moon. We stood up to give them $2 million a year for 5 years or $10 million. But the Norwegian people are dumb enough that they're going to follow. We're going to leave the project, and they're going to put in 7 times more money than we had committed, $70 million, into one country, Guyana, which is not an overly poor country. And if that's not enough damning information, also they say, well, the Norwegians are not the only country with a lot of money throwing it around on stupid projects. We're also going to tag the Australians for $10 million in here. And if this doesn't make our Norwegian and Australian friends around the world even more determined to go back in and ask, this foundation was created from the spoils of one of the most egregious monopolists on the face of the earth, who still today have vast fortunes and a vast foundation that is obviously not regulated, giving away $10 million, not caring where it went, joking about it, hiring some bonehead expert to write a book like this, the ITAD group. I would be hiring lawyers, rapacious lawyers, to get my money back. I wouldn't be hiring some bonehead to write a report saying this initiative and that initiative. Give me my money back.
I think they have a bonehead surplus, Charles. They got to give these guys something to do.
Yeah, and so we did do a long thing about, in April of 2018, we did Green Regs and Scam, which I enjoyed that cover immensely. Not simply because you promoted me to Dr. Ortel, but Dr. Seuss. But the moral of the story, and I think we're pretty close to having Bilyana.
I've got her in the wings right here.
All right, good.
Are you ready?
Is think of the number of lawyers who didn't do the diligence that they should have done, to put it charitably. And then think of, if we're in a tough world with the economy teetering, you want to get your money back. Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Johnson Foundation. There are a lot of rich targets. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates personally, accounting firms, a lot of rich targets to get your money back for this fraud. And with that, we'll move over to Sweden.
Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit now, Charles, from a topic having to do with the Clintons to a topic having to do with our very good friend, Dr. Bilyana Martinovski. Doctor, how are you?
Hello. Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. I think we might have a problem with your microphone a little bit.
That's better.
There we go. Ah, yes. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Much better.
Okay.
So, Bilyana, people have been very worried about you. We've heard just the other night that you were arrested there in Sweden. Can you fill us in and let us know what happened and what's happening now?
What happened was very strange and violent and distressful. I came back from, first I had planned a vacation for a long time, so I went for a vacation, and while I was about to board the plane, we had to check the passports because it was outside of the European Union. And at the checkpoint, suddenly I was stopped of all other people, and my passport was kept at the pass control. And I was told to just stand and wait for a policeman to come and talk to me. And I was not alone, and so I was really surprised what's going on. We're, together, a few people, so... and I thought there must be something mistake, or I had just had the new passport because the other one is expired. I thought, have I done something wrong there? So they kept me like that, waiting behind the pass control. Waited and waited and waited. I went in and asked them, what is the problem? Can you tell me why are you holding me there? And so the woman screamed at me, stop asking, get out of here, stand there and wait, very rudely, like really rude. And I'm just a
Were you in Sweden at this point, or were you in the country that you left?
No, this was in Arlanda, the airport in Stockholm. So I was flying from Stockholm abroad. And so she kept me there. Then I went to the gate, and everybody had already started to board in the airplane. My seats were already in. So I went to the personnel, and I told them, for some reason they're keeping my passport and not letting me go. And they said, we've never had an issue like this. Let's ask them and call them. So they called them. They got the same information. She just wait. She just have to wait for someone to talk to her. And so we stand there and wait. And then they said, oh, you have to go downstairs to the passport control. So I ran downstairs and asked what's going on. Again, they shouted at me. Then suddenly, then I thought, okay, so I cannot go on vacation. I'm missing the plane. It's already paid. Everything is prepaid.
Wow.
And So suddenly the pass control woman comes out and just hands me the passport, without a word. And I just run to the gate and boarded there. They had told me that they will wait, the plane will wait for a little bit. They said, we can wait a little bit if there is some issue. Anyway, I boarded. There was some police, armed police, right in front of the gate, and I didn't understand why are they there, or was it for me, or what was it, but they were just standing there. And that's it. So I went on my vacation, and I had very good time to a very warm, sunny place. It had been dark and rainy here. So I came on the way back from the vacation. I'm just, it was been a very long trip, long waiting and checkings and everything everywhere. So we arrive again at the same airport, Stockholm Airport, Arlanda. And again, everybody else that we traveled with, people we met and we knew and so on, they pass and they see that, they stop me. Everybody else, I'm the only one. Again, they keep my passport and they say, you have to stand to the side and wait until a policeman talks to you. Again, I was like, what have I done? They're stopping me at the airport. It's a public place. It's a public situation. So I stand there and wait. Then we thought, okay, time is passing, and the car was outside, and then we had paid only for a certain time. So, we asked again, what's the problem? And again, they shouted at us, get out of here, get out of the wait there. And so we just, we were very surprised. And after a while, my friend who was with me, he started recording, because when this happened, we had called a friend who recommended another person who has a lawyer, and we asked what could this be, and he said, we don't know what it is, but whatever they're doing, if you're not allowed to have a lawyer, you should be quiet, you should not say a word. So and I have no idea what is going on and why. So he tries to use his phone to record how they're shouting at us. And then they come out totally mad, stop recording, they're recording here. Two police come out, armed police. Firearms, some kind of a hitting stick, some of these lamps that they use, to shine into people's eyes to blind them. And they come all uniformed and armed and come to us. Well, we have to talk to you, okay? What is this about? Why are you holding me here? And I want to talk to a lawyer, I said. And then one of the policemen from the pest control said, I don't have a lawyer in my pocket. Then I really got mad. I mean, what is this attitude? This is horrible, disgusting, uncivilized attitude to me. Like, here I am coming from a vacation. They let me go on vacation. Why didn't they stop me earlier from the vacation? Why are they letting me come back? If it's such a serious issue, I could have stayed away, right? I wouldn't come back.
But did they tell you eventually what the issue was?
So this continues. Another policeman comes, third policeman comes. So two policemen from the passport control, and then three other policemen come out, the armed policemen, and they tell my friend, you have committed a crime by recording here. You cannot record. You have to erase the recording. So he starts erasing the recording. They check, he's erasing the recording. So they say to us, well, you have to stand here and wait. Stand here and just wait. Okay, we wait, and they go talking to each other behind us. We don't see them where they are, and then we started calling friends. People here. We found the phone number of the lawyer. Then we the lawyer was on the phone, and he was just saying, "What's going on?" And I'm saying, "Well, I don't know. There's just aren't police around." And then he said, "You just don't say anything, and I'm far away, so I can't come. I don't know this person, I don't know this lawyer, and just a name we got recommended very quickly. This is happening very quickly." And then all of a sudden, the 3 policemen come out, and then a police bus comes, and a group of policemen come out of the bus, and then a police car comes also behind the bus, and 2 other policemen come. So now we are surrounded by at least these 3 policemen from the bus, 2 policemen from the car, the 3 policemen that were already there, all of them armed, and they surround me, and they say, we are here to have a practical solution. We are arresting you. And I'm like, "What are you arresting me for?" "You're just arresting you."
That's outrageous.
I still don't know what it is about. You have to go to an interrogation. But what is this interrogation about? Have you served me? Like, is this how you serve me? The notice that I have to go to an interrogation? Is it serving? Is it detaining? Or is it an arrest? What are they actually doing here? There are 3 different things. I don't even understand what it is about. So the lawyer is just talking to my friend and telling, just don't say anything. He says, tell them you have the right to a witness, so my friend can come with me and be a witness if there is an interrogation. The moment he says that, so he's holding me, and he says, "I want to come as a witness," and I say, "I would like to have a witness." And they come on the side, and I had a dress like this, and then I had a very light jacket on top, summer jacket, and one policeman, armed policeman, holds me in one hand, and the other policeman holds me in the other hand, and pull me out from the airport, from some doors, and then they put me outside, take my bags, tore me from my friend. So I'm not allowed to have a witness.
Wow.
For whatever they're taking me, and then. And then they asked me to open my hands like this. I opened hands. I stand like this, and then they search me brutally. It was the most brutal body search I've ever experienced in my life, where she's touching, everywhere. It was almost as a sexual assault.
Was it by a man or a woman?
There was a man and a woman, and the man said, "Oh, you should do it," and then the woman started doing it, and she was touching me. It doesn't matter to me if it's a woman, she's a woman. She's a woman just really touching my breasts all over the place, and then everywhere. It was just extraordinary, disgusting. I am just coming from vacation, So
they haven't even told you what you've done.
I have no idea why. The only thing they told me, they have to go to an interrogation. But if you go to an interrogation, they have to serve me a paper telling me that I should go for an interrogation, not arrest me.
Bilyana, let me pause you for a second, because we've got a lot of new viewers since the last time you've been on the show, and some people are asking about your background. Now, you are a Bulgarian-born immigrant to Sweden, correct?
Not really. I'm not born in Bulgaria.
Sorry. Give us the background so everybody knows exactly.
Well, I'm very mixed, I'm very mixed, and I have all kinds of background, like if you want to know where my family comes from. But I'm not born in Bulgaria. I'm born in a place called Ohrid. It is now in Macedonia. At that time, it was Yugoslavia. But I was just born there, and when I was 6 months old, I was moved around different places. And when I was about 6 years old, I went to live in Sofia, in Bulgaria. Right. But I was a foreigner there, and I didn't even speak the language. So I always lived as a foreigner in Bulgaria. Then my mother remarried in Sweden. and she moved to live in Sweden, and I lived with my grandparents in Sofia.
And you've lived in
parents.
Sweden for many, many years. You've become a university professor. You were an activist. This type of government targeting against you really began when you started reporting on the website Gang Rape Sweden, which wasn't even editorial commentary, as I recall. It was just court records of who was being prosecuted for the exploding number of violent rapes that were taking place in Sweden.
Yeah, I was one of the probably million or at least hundreds of thousands of people who have seen this site on Twitter. And at that time, we didn't have information about the gang rapes. And a lot of us were wondering, and we were reading disgusting reports about massive gang rapes of 5, 6 men over one girl, and raping her at the same time, and then destroying this person's life. And this site actually offered the actual verdicts. So you could see the verdicts. And at first I didn't believe it. I thought it was some kind of political propaganda back then. And then I thought, oh, I have to check this. Is it true or is it not true? If it's true, then we have to really do something about it. We have to stop it, find out, the morphology of the crimes, who is committing it, what's going on, stop it. Because the verdicts I read was horrendous, sadistic, sexual torture of women, many of whom felt that they're dying during the rapes of many men.
And you've been outspoken for a long time in favor of these victims, and it's made you a target from the newspapers that are now reporting on this arrest. So you still don't know what you were arrested for?
And we are at the airport, and I still don't know what I'm arrested for. And I don't know why I'm arrested. If they're taking me to an interrogation, I should be served to go to interrogation. I shouldn't be arrested.
Do you know now, at this point, finally?
So just to quickly get you there, they put me in a car, like take me down and put me in the car on some kind of a special plastic seat. They take my bags and they throw them in the car. One of them sits next to me, the man, and the woman is driving. And I have never seen such reckless driving in my life. These people are completely crazy when it comes to my security as a person. They're driving 157 kilometers an hour. I had no glasses and I couldn't see I couldn't get to my bag to take my glasses, but the speedometer was showing very red colors, 157. But God, this in the rain, and they just so all these policemen, armed policemen, get into this bus, and then after the bus there is this car, and I'm in the car with these 2 other policemen. I don't know why I'm there, and they drive like crazy for a very long time and drive me around. I have no idea where they're taking me. So I'm just sitting quietly and looking, and I couldn't really, without glasses, I couldn't really see far where I am and where they're taking me. They drove a very long time. At a certain point I thought, oh, are they driving me to Gothenburg? From Stockholm to Gothenburg is 500 kilometers. I thought, okay, I have to survive this. I haven't eaten since the morning. We had no lunch because it was such a long trip and to the airport and all. And anyway, I stand there and I'm actually freezing. I was actually freezing. It was very cold. The temperature change was where I was, it was 36 degrees. And all of a sudden I'm coming to like 8 degrees, So I wasn't prepared for this treatment. And so I'm scared I was scared for my life in this car, because I thought, if they crash, what does it matter to me who is responsible for the crash and for killing me if they kill me? It's my life, and I have no control over the security of my own life, because I'm in this car with these people who could very well be Mexican cartel that is kidnapping me from the airport. This is exactly how I felt. I felt kidnapped by these people.
And certainly that aside, for people here in the United States who aren't familiar with the metric system, 157 kilometers per hour is 98 miles per hour. It seems like an excessive speed to be driving.
Definitely in Sweden. Definitely in Sweden. I've never seen anywhere allowed to drive that fast. But just the thought of this is the kind of laws they're supposed to enforce, and they're breaking them themselves. But not only this, just the human aspect of my security. Like, how do I feel there behind and driven in such speed around, not knowing where I'm driven, like crazy going and driving. And anyway, at a certain point, they just arrived to some kind of a garage, and then they say, "Oh, you cannot." Before that, when they put me in the car, I could not put the belt myself. They had to one come from one side, put the belt, and the other one come from the other side to hold me there so they can put the belt, my hands under the belt. Then the female policeman said, "Oh, you can put your hands out. Oh, thank you. You know, I can put my hands out outside of the belt. Can you imagine?" And then afterwards, when we arrived there, again, I'm not supposed to unlock the belt myself. They have to come, and the man comes and unlocks my belt, you know, as if I thought, this, what is this? Am I suspected of terrorism or explosions or something? Well, and anyway, I'm quiet the entire time. He tries to intimidate me. He says, "Oh, Bilyana, have you lost it completely? Have you?" As if he is my friend, you know, that I've known for years. "Bilyana, have you lost it completely? Have you lost it?"
But
there's no idea.
What was he getting at? Have you lost it? What?
I don't know. I have no idea. As if I have, because I'm not saying anything, right? So he wants me to talk. He wants to start an interrogation in the car. And I'm thinking, this person doesn't even know why I'm there, because he's just called from somewhere. And then he says some code like 19A. This is very serious stuff. He says, "I don't understand what this code is about. I don't understand what he means. Does he understand what this is about?" And he starts to interrogate me in the car.
Wow.
So
now, let me ask you a couple questions, though, because so people, I think, are getting confused. There's a newspaper called Sapo, right? Or is that Seppo is the secret police? What's the story there with Sapo, Seppo? What is that?
Seppo is the Swedish secret police. It is like CIA, I would say.
Right. Is that who these guys were, or they were regular airport police? And why does it say Sapo right here on the local SE?
What is this? I don't know. Is this related to me?
I don't know. This is the website, the local SE. It's not related to you, but I thought Sapo. I got confused for a second, and I told people in the comments it was a newspaper.
I don't. They were not SEP. I don't think they were SEP. They were just. They were policemen from one particular regular police from some particular police station called Solna, in which I found in 1 o'clock at night where I was, because at that time this is 9 o'clock in the evening. From 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock, I am held by these people.
Wow.
I feel kidnapped. I don't feel served. I am detained. I'm not served. I'm detained and I'm arrested, all at the same time without knowing why. And then, so we arrived there, and they just throw my bags on the ground. They put my bags on the ground far away from me, and then they put me on some bench, and they say, "You should sit here." And the bench has some kind of yellow marking around, so you can't really stretch your legs further or something, so you have to stand there. So I just stood there. I just sat down, and that's it. And I sat down there for about 3 hours.
In the rain?
No, inside. This is now I'm locked in to some. I'm locked into some room, and there are many armed policemen that walk around. These people that detained me or arrested me or whatever they did, they disappeared and they left me there. So I just stood there, and I stood without moving. You know, I just stood with my hands on my knees and didn't move. There were cameras inside. Police were walking around. I had no idea where I am. Is this a jail? Is this a police station? Where I didn't know where I am. So they just said, "You're going to be interrogated," and that's it. Why? I didn't ask anymore, you know, because for me, these people have already broken all my human rights as I could see it, and there is no point to communicate with them. When I tried to have a witness and was holding my friend, they just tore me from my friend. So they actually used violence and held me under my arms, as if I am. As if I have, I don't know what kind of crime I have committed, but they did not allow me to have the witness, and they used violence. So I realized that if I didn't refuse something or say something, they would consider it resistance, and then it would be much worse, right? They can use violence. They can shoot me if they want to. They have the right to do that. I guess. Wow. I don't know. So if whatever they interpret as resistance. Anyway, I was sitting very quietly at about 12:15, I think. Two policemen come to me and say, "We're going to interrogate you. I'm supposed to move to another room." And they say, "Before we do that, we're going to take your DNA."
Whoa.
DNA? Why are they taking my DNA? DNA?
I think they want to clone you so they can have you assassinate yourself in 20 years, like that stupid movie that's out right now.
Yeah.
So wait, but if I could jump in for a second, Bilyana, just so the viewers who may be joining now or may not know the whole story, you are recounting an experience that happened to you not in China, not in Venezuela, not in Africa, but in Sweden, where you live.
This is Stockholm, Sweden. Yes.
Yeah, in Sweden.
The world's first feminist government in the world.
Yeah,
the first world government, feminist government.
Yeah.
This is where I am. And there, you know.
A place that is fond of that was a neutral country, but is fond of lecturing the rest of us about the virtues of globalism and America's evil and war's evil. And this is how they're treating a university-educated, longtime president, starting at 9 p.m. on the return at an airport. This is the way you're treated. Yeah. You're a taxpayer. You're a property owner. You've been there for a long time.
Yeah, pay taxes for all my life. My family paid taxes for all these years, and this is how my taxes are used against me. And I mean, they don't know. I don't know if they know who I am. They just know, see a name. They just have a passport. They were reading my passport and looking around, talking on the phone with other friends and laughing. I'm sitting there in this strange, horrific situation. They're laughing about it. Then they take my passport and throw it, from the backside of the car to the front of the car before they got me to the police station there, and whatever that was. And anyway, now they're taking my DNA. And then I was thinking, well, what rights do I have? If I say I don't want them to take my DNA, would they consider it resistance to the police? Then they're going to use violence, more violence. Well, I don't want more violence. They could, as far as I'm concerned, I was actually worried that someone can rape me there in this station, and then they can cover up any evidence and do whatever they want. One of the most famous cases in Sweden was a very high-ranked policeman who raped a number of women.
Yeah. Ole Damagard told me about that case. Bilyana, we've got a number of interesting statements coming in the comments. Pamela Rice suggests that the police want your DNA so that they can frame you and plant evidence, putting your DNA elsewhere. That sounds really dangerous. We've got some people who are skeptical of your story, Bilyana, and this is not me saying this, but we've got a viewer on Periscope who doesn't believe you and asks if you have a police report.
It doesn't matter to me if they believe me or not. I have experienced what I've experienced, and they know what I've experienced. And this is the issue. If I don't have a witness, they don't allow me to have a witness, and I have no lawyer with me there. So how can I?
They can do whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want. They can literally rape me there, and there will be no witness to it. I'm surrounded by men. It was just men around, and I don't know any of them. They don't know me. They walk around. I'm for hours alone there, without phone. I had no phone on me. I had, just clothes from the trip, and a book, and my personal belongings. I had my jewelry in a little box from my mother. Uh, anyway, they take me into this. They take me into this room. Two men stand in front of me. I'm standing it's a closed room, no windows, nothing, and they stand in front of me and they say, "Now we're going to take your DNA. Here is an information for you." I was totally shocked. My mouth went blue and I could not open my mouth anymore. I mean, I was told to be quiet, but at this point, I actually became so dry after hours and hours sitting there. I haven't been to the toilet. I haven't been drinking water. You know, I'm just, I see this as if I'm detained by some Mexican cartel. So I stand there and he hands something to me and over the table and says, "Read this." I can't even concentrate to like hear what he's saying anymore. You know, I'm just totally shocked. And then he says, "Okay, I'm going to now stick this into your mouth." And then he takes a stick, something like that, and then he puts it in my mouth.
Wow.
Sticks it inside the mouth. You see, I'm an associate professor in human-machine interaction. I work with development of virtual humans. I've worked internationally. I've published internationally. I have books on emotion and group decision negotiation. I've organized the conference in Stockholm for group decision negotiation with participants from all around the world. I'm not a person that you should like treat as a terrorist. I have a PhD in general linguistics. I have master at that time, magister, as it was called, education in theoretical literature, analysis, studies as it was called, and in Slavic languages. The fact that they're treating me so primitively and physically operating with my body as they feel, my body is treated as a corpse. He's now getting into my mouth and taking a sample of my mouth that he said, "We're going to register your DNA and we're going to keep it. If you're found guilty, then we are going to keep that DNA. If not, we're going to remove it." And he says, not everybody gets to be DNA sampled, but this prosecutor has decided for this particular crime to be eligible for DNA sampling. At this point, I still don't know why I'm there.
So they're aware of what crime requires DNA sampling, but they're not telling you.
Yes, and I thought, okay, DNA sampling, there was a mistake. You know, are they taking me for an explosion or something? And so I sit there, and now I am actually becoming curious to wait. When are they going to tell me why I am there? Then they asked me, "Do you want to have a lawyer?" And I was instructed to say that I should say I want. And I opened my mouth and I said the name of the lawyer. They asked me to repeat the name because they couldn't spell it. And I repeated it. I said, "I want a lawyer. Do you want a lawyer?" "I want a lawyer." I said the name of the lawyer. And they wrote it down, but they didn't contact the lawyer. They just continued with the interrogation without a lawyer. So no witness, no lawyer. They're sticking stuff into my mouth, holding my hands, driving me crazy around town without telling me what it is about. And at this point, I still don't know what's going on. And then one of them starts reading on some screen and says, "You're here because you're suspected of defamation on Twitter of Kaiser Klein and causing her distress, causing her to feel molested."
Who is Kaiser Klein?
Kaiser Klein, if you remember, we talked about the situation in 2017 when I most suddenly, completely unexpectedly, was removed from Stockholm University with one letter. And I was told that my associate professorship there, which was affiliated research position, is removed because I am discussing politically sensitive issues. I have discussed the gang rapes. that was the only thing I've ever engaged myself in life, in public, to say something other than my science work. So this person had written number of letters, many letters to my employers, to my colleagues, where she calls me right extremist, alt-right extremist, and Nazi, because I have retweeted the site Gang Rape Sweden. And for that reason, she wants me removed, and she wants my CV removed, not only from Stockholm University, but also from Gothenburg University and other universities. When one of the professors responds to her when she sends this letter, which is a defamation letter, he responds to her and says, the fact that she is retweeting a site about gang rapes does not make her a right extremist. She responds to him, which I have shown on your show. She responds to him and says, well, at least Stockholm University found that she likes Trump, Putin, and Trump.
So that gets you arrested in Sweden?
So are they arresting me in Sweden because of suspicion that I like Putin or Trump? How do they know I like them? I've never met them.
Well, actually, Bilyana, I think we now understand that you may have missed the opening portion of the show. Hillary Clinton is rounding up 10-year-olds because she's suggesting we round up 10-year-olds because they're gonna influence the election in 2020. It must be that they've decided. You did mention that you were born in Macedonia, and there's this argument about Macedonian operations commencing in 2015 and 16. They must have decided, and I'm joking, of course, that you were the mastermind behind causing Hillary Clinton to epically lose the 2016 election that she had rigged with Barack Obama. It's just, isn't that obvious?
Yeah, but
so who is this person? Who is this? We have her picture up on the screen. Who is this person?
Well, I think we talked about it before. She's, as far as I understand, she's a journalist, and she's specializing in media and communication. She has at that time when she wrote these letters, she was the communication strategist. At least this is what was published about her. That she was communication strategist for an NGO kind of organization called Jag Här, which dedicates to hate crime persecution. And what they do is they meet on Facebook, and they attack sites and media by swarm attacking them. They organize in like hundreds of people, and they report. True or not, they report accounts which they don't like. And that way they shut down media accounts, people, they block them, and so on. So they've been doing this, and I didn't know about them. I hear about these people in relation to the fact that I'm removed from the university with the letter that I am engaged in this political discussion on Twitter of politically sensitive issues. That per se is very strange, because I am a private person too. I'm a voter. I have the right to take decisions, and when I take decisions, I can take decisions, such public decisions, with in discussing with other people and gathering information of different kinds. So Twitter is a good forum for learning that way fast without trying to read many newspapers. You can find out what's going on and be able to make choices, because we are forced to take political choices and to vote and so on. So anyway, this person has written this many letters to the university, and she claims in one of her letters to university to my colleagues, she claims that she has police reported me. This is happening in September 2017. I find out about this by requiring the official documents from the university. The university sends me the official documents of this correspondence, and I find out that she has contacted asked them to contact secret police. That she claims this that I'm police reported. So when I find that out, I went in beginning of 2018. I actually walked physically to the police station where I lived, and I asked them, here are some documents that claim that I am police reported. Could you please check my police record? Am I reported? What am I reported for? And then the police checked with my ID, and they said there is no police report on you.
Isn't that a crime, Bilyana?
This, in my world, in my thinking, this is a crime. To go to my colleagues and my employers and to tell them that I am reported for a crime without being reported for a crime, without being even committing a crime, that is, for me, pure slander and defamation. So I asked, can I report this now? I'm here to, I would like, do you think I should report it? Isn't it a crime in Sweden? And they said, well, there is no point for you to report it because 99% of the defamation cases are thrown in the garbage by the prosecutors. They don't like this. So no, you cannot. He refused to take my report. So then I was thinking, he said, and the policeman told me, oh, this is a civil case issue, and you should contact your union. So I am a member of the academic union, and I should go to the union and tell them about it and see what they would. But I thought, after all, isn't that a serious thing to tell people that I'm police reported, and I'm not police reported? So at that time, there were articles about this issue, and the journalists wanted to know what I found when I went to the police, and I told them what I found, and they wrote an article about it. So, I have been to police, and I asked about this, so I know that I'm not reported, and this is actually a serious situation. But then, so when I can't report it, then I thought, okay, well, I can't report it. They're not allowing me. I don't know how what other way I can report the crime other than going to the police. So, or a suspected crime or whatever. And I have so much other work. I have books to write. I have articles waiting, and lots of work to do. So it's completely different kind of concentration. This is only distracting me tremendously and actually disturbing me in my professional work, particularly in my writing and in my research. So I concentrated more on what I like to do and what's my life. And then, so we are here now in 2019 on the 16th of, so after this is February, March 2018, the situation where I go to the police and they say, well, you're not reported. And then this is now October 2019, I am arrested at the airport, and I'm brought to this station or to this jail. I don't know what it was, and my DNA is taken, and I'm told that this same person who has written all these letters to the university, claiming completely false accusations of my political orientation based on one retweet. She wrote these letters based on only one retweet of the site Gang Rape Sweden, which this organization Yoga Har, which she worked for, was trying to shut down. They were trying to shut down the site which was giving information about the gang rapes. And at that time, there was no other way you could find any information. I had verified that site. I contacted all the courts in Sweden, 43 district courts, and I asked them to send me the information about the gang rapes that was published in the site, just to verify if it's true. And I could verify that everything on the site was correct. They had published only the gang rapes, but I got thousands of pages about 50,000 cases which the court ledgers described for only rape cases, and many of them child rapes in Sweden. I was shocked when I got the information from the courts. As a private person, you have the right to contact the courts and say and get the information. So I did that just to inform myself. Okay, is this true or is it not? Is it political propaganda or is it not?
And this is what your previous appearances have been going over the details and everything about that. So let me bring you into a conclusion here, if I could, Bilyana, because I know it's getting very late there in Sweden. But so you were basically detained by these police. They did not give you any kind of police report of the incident or anything like that?
Detained is you're detained, and you are not detained is one thing. You are it's different from arrest, right? Arrest, you are held in somewhere, and detained is like it doesn't involve detained does not involve.
But did they give you any conclusion? Did they say you're being arrested for X, Y, and Z, or we've resolved it here, you can leave? How did this end? You're obviously not with the police now.
That's all what they said. They said, you're here because of suspicion that you have defamed Kaiser Klein on Twitter and caused her to feel molested on Twitter.
So that allows them to beat you up and drive you around at 100 miles an hour so that you feel molested.
I was in shock.
Well,
but is this the same person that did all these things and I was removed from university because of this? And now I'm also reported for what am I reported? Which tweets? Like, what is this about? Are they my tweets? Whose tweets?
But so what happens now? Are you going to court? Did they give you some tickets, some police report?
They asked me questions, few questions, and I didn't say anything. And then they said, okay, we're done here. You're not going to talk. Okay, you're not talking. So we are going to end this and get out of this room, go to the other room, sit there again. We're going to talk to the prosecutor. After a while, they came out from the room where they were, and they said, you're free to go now. You're released, but we're going to search your. We have orders from the prosecutor to take your computer and your phone. And I said then I have no computer and phone. And then they said we're going to search your bags anyway. So they put on gloves and started searching my handbag and my travel bag. They took everything from it and searched and searched and searched. When they finished, I asked to see my belongings, and I said I would like to see if my jewelry is there, because I was separated from my bags when I was interrogated. So I wanted to see, because the jewelry is from my mother, and I was traveling kind of to the place where I went, to the place that she liked very much, so I took some of the jewelry. Then the man who interrogated me said, why do you care about the jewelry? You have already enough jewelry on you. That I had this from my grandmother.
What the hell is going on with the police in Sweden?
Yeah, so he thinks, okay, if someone has stolen some jewelry from her bag, that's okay, because she has enough jewelry on her anyway. This is shocking to me. Like one after the other, I'm shocked by their behavior and their way of thinking and treatment of a completely innocent, free person. Yeah. So anyway, I say, can I use the phone to call someone, because I have no idea where I am. It's 1 o'clock at night. No, I don't know where I am. And I'm not dressed properly for this weather. So then he said, you cannot call from here. You can call from the reception of the police. I will show you where it is. So we go out. I take my bags. We go out. He tells me, so you can call from here, and directs me outside. It's raining outside. It's dark. I have really no idea where I am. And he points to the reception, which is like a few meters away. I go to the reception, and it says it's open only until 8 o'clock. So this same man knew very well that he is letting a woman outside on the dark street in a completely unknown area, after being held for hours and hours, arrested, detained, whatever they did, over suspected tweets. And he basically lied to me that I can call from the reception, because he knew the reception is closed. He works there. So I stood there completely alone in the middle of nowhere and wondered, what do I do now? Where do I go? I had no phone.
So how did you resolve it?
Well, I started walking. I was kind of feeling, where shall I go? Shall I go this way? I have no idea where I am. You can't check. I have no GPS, nothing. So, and I don't know this part of Stockholm. I've been teaching. I was employed in Stockholm University since 2010, and I've been teaching, but I lived in Gothenburg. So I was flying in the morning, teaching, and then going back to Gothenburg. And I never wanted to move to Stockholm, to live there. So my experience of Stockholm is basically just flying and going to the university and teaching, and then going away. I know the center, but this was not the center. This was, then I read that this is Solna, it's kind of a suburb in Stockholm I've never been to, but I've read about it, and it has quite a lot of violence there. So if someone had robbed me or killed me or raped me on the street that night at 1 o'clock as I go alone, and I have no idea where I am, and I have no way to communicate with anybody with a phone, who would be responsible? Would it be the police?
Wow.
Would it be the prosecutor?
So, but honestly, how did you get, did someone come and pick you up, or how did you get home?
No, I walked around and I thought, okay, I have to find a hotel. So I started walking around, wildly walking around, and then I found a hotel. And I knocked to the hotel in the night reception, and I asked them, can I please use your phone? So I called my friend who was with me in the airport, and I knew the phone by heart, and we called and from the reception, and he has been worried. He had no idea what's going on. So he imagined being with someone, and then they just take your friend from the airport, and you have no idea where they took her and why they took her. So he didn't know what to do. So he was just driving around and waiting to know what. I think that what he did was he called the lawyer. And the lawyer has been, because when I was in this jail or this station there, held inside the locked, this policeman who interrogated me told me, I said I want to call on the phone, and then he said, well, they're here. They've been calling here all the time. He was pretty annoyed. So I realized, oh, people have been calling for me, and I felt, okay, maybe there is a chance for me to get somehow to get home if they release me. So they came and picked me up with the car, and the lawyer has been calling. This same lawyer that we really a completely unknown person that was recommended to us, and luckily he cares. And also my friend has been calling, has called media. So the media has been calling also and asking why are they holding us. So the media and the lawyer and my friend helped me. I think that maybe if they didn't do that, if they weren't calling for me and they weren't worrying for me, they would not even interrogate me that night. They would just keep me there.
What's the next step? You're obviously not with the police anymore. Have you been charged with a crime? Will there be a court date? Is anything going to happen to you now? We don't know.
No, I don't know.
What does the lawyer say?
Nobody served me. Nobody served me that I'm called for interrogation. Nobody served me, gave me the documents to tell me.
So the normal process in Sweden, the police pull you off the airplane. They say, hey, you're suspected of robbing a bank. You have drugs in your suitcase or something. Give you some paper that says you're under arrest or something like that?
They didn't give me any paper, papers whatsoever.
So I guess we're going to have to stay with this and see what happens next. But I don't know. What else can we say about this?
Well, I'd just like to weigh in and say one thing, Bilyana. I mean, Sweden, in theory, and certainly in practice around the world, the Swedish diplomats kind of hold themselves out. You get the Nobel Prizes, the various Nobel Prizes come out of Sweden. And we're given to understand here in America that the Swedes know how to behave much better. Some people hold Sweden out as a better model for governance in the United States of America. And it strikes me that this is an area where we should be able to find common ground across the political spectrum. This is not the way you treat people in a civilized nation. It's a basic human. In the United States, in theory, you have this human right, but I think. And maybe in Sweden, in theory, you do too. What it sounds like is going on here is there is a vendetta being conducted against you where you have, in fact, suffered economic damages. You've lost your livelihood in the prime of your teaching career by this Katja Klein, whoever this person is. And it seems to me that we ought to understand this person's motivation, her connections. And what you described to me is the kind of thing that does happen, sadly, around the world, where you have a rogue police department wants to intimidate somebody. And they say, we're just going to teach this Bilyana a lesson. We're going to have somebody conduct an off-the-books operation that seems to involve policemen. There won't be any records of it. And this is designed to get you to shut up. Because now you should...
Yes.
You know, now you're
Yes.
worried about whether this is going to. If it happened to me, I'd be saying, well, what are they going to do next?
Right.
And
Yes.
you know, this is an area where I'm sorry you've been through this. I'm delighted that you would take the time so late on a Saturday evening, just having done a Sunday evening, just having done this. I know our viewers are going to be outraged by it. And frankly, you know, people make all kinds of noise in the United States of America, but how come Donald Trump is finding common cause with Saudi Arabia, where the Crown Prince might have sent somebody in to assassinate a journalist? How come he's got time for Kim? How come he's got time for, you know, for Xi in China? How come we're wasting any time as Americans visiting Sweden? How come we're wasting time trying to conduct business with Swedish companies that would allow this kind of stuff to happen? With a society that suffers apparently from Stockholm syndrome, you've got these people coming in, these refugees coming in, engaged in abhorrent criminal behavior, and your own government's reaction is to say, "Oh yeah, she's tweeting about Trump. Let's go after her." I mean, this is isn't it past a breaking point where the good men and women of Sweden need to stand up and say, "Enough of you globalist politicians. You're talking smack. You're not making any sense. The country's economy is in a horrible place, and we're just not going to take this crap anymore."
Yeah, I wonder when this is going to happen. I personally feel that they're disturbing me from my work. I am actually a dedicated scholar, and I published this book 2015. I'm on emotion and group decision negotiation. I have another book coming out. This is my work, and instead I am engaged only in one thing, and it was to support women and to support children who have been exposed to this horrendous, horrific crimes. There is a way to stop this if we know who were the perpetrators and so on. But to make this an issue of hate crime, to talk about the gang rapes is outrageous.
It's outrageous.
But I wanted to tell you one more thing for your viewers, which was very interesting to me.
I think your microphone's fallen down, Bilyana. Could you?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
much better.
Yeah, I thought maybe it will be interesting. It was interesting for me. Lots of journalists have been calling me. I'm not experienced to talk to many journalists, and with a lot of mistakes in the reporting. We're trying to correct them all the time, and one person immediately after what happened, the next day, the first person, private person, not a journalist who called me, was a woman whose child was raped by a policeman. And she called me to tell me that her daughter is very worried, and she's very happy that someone is standing up for this, and she wants us to be able to talk about this because she lives in constant fear because they have released that man, and he has a lot of protection, but the girls who have been raped by this man do not have this protection. So the girl lives in fear, and the mother is distressed for years. So this is very significant for me because people understand that in my little way, I'm just a little person. And when Charles contacted me the first time on Twitter, I was just new on Twitter, trying to find out how this media works. And I had something like 500 followers. I was just nobody on Twitter. And that's all I did. I just checked if the data for the gang rapes are correct. So that's how we got in touch with Charles for the first time. I did some my own research about the Owan brothers. I remember I found out that they work with car companies and so on. So I thought this was strange, which appeared to be actually a correct track. But I did it on my own. Like, I was just curious. Well, who are these Owan brothers? Anyway, this is what happened. And the first private person who called me was a mother of a raped girl. I want to, again, if there are any Swedish victims, I consider also the family part of the victims of the extraordinary many sexual assaults and the rapes and gang rapes in Sweden, and very sadistic in quality. That I do all this and I manage to stand it because I strongly believe that there is no way the humanity, our human race, can continue existing with this form of crimes allowed and not stopped, and politicians ignoring them. And when we try to raise the issue, calling us names, labeling us as Nazis, as right extremists, or whatever terms they can come up with, this is really, really very, very strong and unfair treatment of common people, especially women. And I am a woman. Accidentally, it appears that it seems I read in some media that are digging into this that they have also been. They had orders to search my home, and I didn't know that. I don't know. They might have been in my home, and I didn't even know that they'd been there.
Wow. Well, so one thing that does, off the top of my head, one thing that I would like to consider encouraging followers of mine and followers of this show to do is let's get this video with today's video, once it's fully up, let's have as many people as possible send it with a short introduction in the tweet to Melania Trump and to Ivanka Trump. Melania Trump,
yes,
is her personal mission as First Lady is to assist people in dealing with bullying, in stopping bullying. And if this isn't a textbook case of somebody being bullied, you've lost your job, you live in fear now, justifiably, and what are you trying to do? You're trying to bring attention across the world, the so-called civilized world, to the gross abuses that are happening in a once great country, Sweden, as Swedish diplomats and politicians lecture the rest of us on how great they are, while hiding and allowing this type of behavior to happen within their own borders. They have no business, the Swedish politicians, lecturing anybody until they deal with this problem inside major cities in Sweden and inside Sweden, a country that the Swedish government, in theory, controls. So let's get this video direct, I'll do it later, to Melania, to Donald Trump, to people who listen. Not saying anything will happen, but if enough of this attention goes, and enough of people, maybe we'll start I organized with others in 2013-14 timeframe, roughly, the Stop Qatar Now movement. Maybe we have to stop American tourists to protect them. Maybe we have to stop them from going to Sweden. Maybe we have to stop American businesses from investing in Sweden. Maybe we ought to stop buying Swedish products until this type of stuff is dealt with appropriately, because it's just outrageous. We're not talking about you. We're not talking about Roger Clinton. We're not talking about some ne'er-do-well. We're not talking about Hunter Biden. Yeah. We're talking about somebody who's a legitimate person who's been contributing to the Swedish society, to the Swedish treasury, to the advancement of knowledge, and you are being persecuted, it would seem, by rogue elements inside this country who are getting away literally with stuff that I would argue is arguably worse than murder. The abuses that happen to these children and women are so terrible that it's living hell for many of them for the rest of their lives. And if there ever were a compelling set of issues to focus positively on, this strikes me as one. We have the Me Too movement in the U.S. We have pious tears coming out of Hillary Clinton's eyes, the Me Too movement as she lives with a rapist and tries to get back into power in a third effort here in the United States. You've got a cause there, Bilyana. You're so strong to be doing this. And I know that many people are grateful inside and outside your country for your work. I just hope that you stay safe. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just to tell you that a number of girls have committed suicide because they are not supported by society. I am doing this because I want, if whatever is going on with the girls and the families, to know that they are supported by society. I might be small, I might be little, I might be, not a strong voice, or I don't have influence and I have no connections like this person who is controlling everything, controlling the university, controlling the prosecutors, the police. I don't have this kind of power, but I have my bare life still is with me, and our bare life is beyond politics. We have our beings are beyond politics, beyond governments and beyond politics. So control over our bare lives is not something that the politicians should think that they have the right to take over. My life is not given by the politicians. I have been given life by my mother or my father and my ancestors. Now that they took my DNA, I wonder what they're going to do with this DNA. Also, this woman who has reported me to the universities and now to the police has been engaged in the election in 2004 in the States. She had an organization called Democracy Now, where they collected...
Wait a minute.
Yes.
She's in the United States with Democracy Now. That's Amy Goodman, Democracy Now.
Wait a second.
I could believe it. I've met Amy Goodman a couple times, and she acted very weird.
But foreign people are not supposed to,
Democracy Now! Is just a news show.
No, I know. I'm just saying. But she's saying, Bilyana's saying that this person you have on the screen was involved attempting to influence the American 2004 election.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it was called Democracy Now! She has been writing for Open Democracy as a journalist there, and the site Open Democracy.
Sounds
and
very
she has
George Soros.
She had some, and she, I don't know, and that's all I know about it. And the other, she had some kind of organization where she collected money from non-Americans to influence the election in 2004. And then MoveOn.org, I read it on Open Democracy, her own article. Her own article says that she collected money from non-Americans in order to influence the election.
That's illegal.
In the United States. And then MoveOn.org told her that that's illegal. So they didn't want to get the help from this organization. She had, I don't remember if it was called Democracy Now! Or it was called Democracy Aid or something like that. I can find it out for you. In any case, I read her own articles. So she's a public person. She has written articles. So I read this in the articles. So we are talking about a person who is active for a very, very long time to influence the election in the United States, from New York, then here in Sweden. Now with hate crime. I mean, what kind of hate crime is it to talk about the children that are raped or the women that are grossly raped?
And people in our comments now, Bilyana, are telling us about how MoveOn.org is Hillary's baby. I think it's also important, most of our viewers are in the United States, and you're talking about things that are happening in Sweden, so the laws are obviously quite different. I mean, anybody who doubts your fear of being raped at the police station should be reminded that I think it was 2010 that a police chief was put in prison for rape, for multiple rapes in Sweden. So it's not remotely far-fetched to have that fear.
No. No. And also, I just, I felt surrounded by this armed man, not knowing why I'm there, why I'm taking from my friend from vacation. No witnesses, no lawyer, and no idea where I am. In the end, they take my DNA from my mouth, and then they tell me that it's all about suspected tweets.
Yeah, I don't know why they need your DNA to be using Twitter. It's a really wild story, but I think, Bilyana, we should let people chew on this for now, and we'll get a follow-up from you when something else has occurred. Anything else you want to tell our viewers before we end the show for today?
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for caring. It's a faraway place. Have in mind that Sweden has open borders to Europe, so all that concerns the entire European Union, not just Sweden. Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Jason. It was a very long time we haven't spoken.
Well, it's good to see you, and you're not looking any worse for the wear given this abuse by the police. You look very lovely tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time to come and share your story firsthand with our viewers.
Yeah, thank you, Bilyana. Stay safe.
You didn't cry. That was very good. And the other thing I want to remind everyone, if they're curious to learn more about Bilyana, they should go follow her on Twitter. She's still on there, and you can find her at B. Martinovski. You can also go to BilyanaMartinovski.com. That's Bilyana's webpage. It has a lot of details about her and her work and her research. You're a very brave woman, Bilyana. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry you had to endure that really horrible treatment at the hands of the police there in Sweden.
This picture that I have on the site that you see also on Twitter, just to put it to the end that way, is taken by a girl that it's in Haifa in Israel, and I was there to watch some turtles on the beach in Haifa, but then I forgot my sandals and said I had to go way back to get my sandals. There was some kind of beach cafe, and all of a sudden I see the girl at the beach cafe who was working there was on the ground on the floor, and she was surrounded by 6 men who were about to rape her. So when I came there looking for my sandals, by chance, I interrupted I don't know how I interrupted it, but I interrupted it, and they just stood up. And I had no idea who to call, what to call, and I started screaming, and there was a man who came from, I don't know, far away somewhere, and called the police. The police came immediately, got them all in one shot, and arrested them and got them out of there. And this woman who, she was a very young girl from Israel, she took this picture of me right in front of the cafe. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It has been a huge ordeal, and I stand there with my sandals, and I'm so happy that she's okay. I followed her. She sent me information about herself, and she had a normal life, studied, traveled, had a boyfriend, and lived a happy life. So I did that by chance. So maybe by chance, by trying to raise this issue, we can save some lives.
Good for you, Bilyana. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bilyana. We will speak to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us. That was Bilyana Martinovski, everybody. Lovely to have her back on the show, Charles. And were there any more slides that you had?
No, just, I mean, we need to make sure Bilyana should have a lot more followers.
Yep.
And we need to do what we can to help her, people who can help her, particularly inside Sweden. We'll be reaching out to some of those people, and this is an issue. I mean, you have these, we were made to listen to all these, what turned out to be false accusations against Brett Kavanaugh, with tales of woe from high school days 30 years ago. In his case, we were, the country stopped as various virtue signalers trying to derail the Trump presidency went after Kavanaugh. They were trying to ramp it up again. And those same people, let's wait and see what they have to say about Bilyana's situation in Sweden. Let's see what they start to do, and let's see whether we can encourage the First Lady and her stepdaughter, Ivanka Trump. Let's see whether those ladies can be brought into action here, because it strikes me that this is just a natural case here.
Yeah, I mean, Trump got involved in that A$AP Rocky case where the rapper was, I don't know too many details about that case. Ole was a little bit more dialed in, and it seemed to be the guy, I don't know A$AP Rocky that well, but it seemed like he was wrongly arrested, and Trump got involved. So, I mean, Bilyana's not a hip-hop superstar, but perhaps the president could do something, figure out what's going on over there.
And this is an example when people watch our show and they say, why are we doing this? This is an example of why you may be doing this, that we try to bring actionable issues to your attention. And do your own research, satisfy yourself that Bilyana is somebody who should be supported. If you make that determination, then you can make a difference. You reach out to your congressman, you reach out to media people you reach out if you know people in Sweden, and you say, what the hell? I mean, you're lecturing us at the UN about what we should do, and what the hell is going on inside the country I once really enjoyed visiting, but I'm not going back to it until I hear that the Swedish government has done right by Bilyana.
Yeah. Well, people can follow her on Twitter at bmartinovski, and you can also go to BilyanaMartinovski.com. Note the different spelling. I don't know why.
She's a linguistics professor.
There you go. So there's subtleties to the spelling there. Well, Charles, it's been another excellent episode of Sunday with Charles, and thanks for being here. I want to thank everybody for watching as well. And remember, the show can't go on without your sponsorship. So if you've been watching today, if you're watching the shows during the week, please go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. There's a ton of sponsor exclusive content on there. You're going to get access to various legal cases from social engineers who have misrepresented themselves, to me, to the crowd. We've got evidence, facts, lots of reports. Tomorrow we're going to have Ole Damagard and the Moriartys, 2 different shows. So there's a lot there on Patreon and Subscribestar, and it keeps the show going. Charles, thanks very much. We'll be back next week.
Thank you, Jason.
And thanks everybody for watching.